ourselves, really.
But is confidence enough? Well, we're going to find out.
Disagree with your biggest opponent is yourself.
Plan on Game Day Uncensored. The pregame
any other week.
Football fans, Tobin and Solana with Omar and Beasley on AM 560 Sports, WQAM, FM 99.9 HD2, and always live on the free Odyssey app.
Brought to you by South Florida Lexus dealers and the Lexus RX, the luxury SUV for those who never want to lose their edge. Experience amazing at your Lexus dealer. Also sponsored by the free Odyssey app. Download it today to listen to us live or on demand. And by Edmore Sawgrass Buick GMC. No matter where you lease your vehicle, bring it to Edmore Sawgrass Buick GMC, your lease return headquarters. It's all a part of being backed by Morse. Click EdmoreSawgrassBuickGMC.com, a proud partner of the Miami Dolphins.
And good morning, everybody. It is another edition of Game Day Uncensored here on 560 WQAM. 4 hours of pregame coverage to get you ready for this Week 9 matchup. The Miami Dolphins are visiting Papa, the Buffalo Bills, today on the road. And, man, it all feels like if there's going to be any kind of season, if this is going to be anything, feels like I'm saying this every single week, but if this is going to be anything, Solana, they got to go up against their arch nemesis, who has just dragged them through the mud basically the entirety of Josh Allen's career. And I don't know, how do you feel about it going into this one? But it almost feels like dead team walking. I don't know, man. I don't viably know how to make an argument that the Dolphins are going to win. Because even if they play decently, it just feels like the other shoe is going to drop at some point during these games, buddy. So do tell. I mean, you were like Captain Optimistic yesterday on the text thread between us. So
Captain Optimistic? You took what I texted you as optimistic? I was saying I'm trying to figure out any possible way to say that the Dolphins are going to win this game. I texted you, hey, what do you think about the Dolphins just having zero pressure on this game? Because they don't. I mean, nobody expects them to win today. Nobody, right? So they go out there and they let loose and they play with no pressure. And to me, like, that's a good way to approach the game if you're the Miami Dolphins, you know? Not in this. I mean, they're 2-5, but no, Tobin, I don't actually think that's going to work. I was just trying to figure out any way to present today to our listeners some sort of logical, rational possibility where the Dolphins don't look like poop today. I don't want them to look like poop today. And you know, Tobin, did you look up Josh Allen's numbers when they beat Miami week 2?
They weren't impressive.
He threw for like 176 yards. He had 2 yards rushing only. Yep. It was awful. It was below pedestrian numbers for Josh Allen.
It wasn't. But here's the thing: it wasn't that it was below. He didn't need to do anything. The Dolphins literally gave them the game.
I agree, but that's my whole point, Tobin. If the Bills can do to the Dolphins what they did week 2 before Tua got hurt, and Josh Allen's not even having a good game or doesn't need to perform well, imagine when he does perform well. I just don't see it, man. I don't see how the Dolphins can go in there, you know, any given Sunday. Sure. I don't see it at all.
I think the thing that I've found most frustrating about this season is not just that obviously you have to deal with the Tua injury. That's fine. But I think the thing that has been the most frustrating about them is even when things are going well, and you feel like they've figured something out in a game, you are just waiting for the landmine that is going to hit, that is going to send it into a spiral. I'm dead ass serious about this because, and it was interesting because I got into a lot of arguments with Leroy about this over the summer about that week 2 game really being a statement game. And if it didn't set up the statement of the season, because that was prime time in your building against your nemesis, and you basically were like, here's the game, Buffalo. Boom. We're going to try and throw to some receiver we never heard of, bounces off his chest. Oh, we're going to try and throw to another receiver, wrong route. Then Tua's going to try and do something too much. Oh, he throws the worst interception you've ever seen in your life. Maybe up until Cam Ward yesterday. But it was, I mean, like it really just set up the whole story of the season. And then, you look ahead to the Colts game. It's like, man, they lost to an Anthony Richardson who lost his job in a week. And it didn't matter because the Dolphins were just like, here's a couple of fumbles. That'll turn the game around for you. And then yesterday, last week, you and I are sitting at the D Wade statue unveiling, and we're watching on the phone of just it all unraveling in front of them. And that's the thing that just it's what bad teams are made out of. It's not just they got talent. Everybody recognizes it. They have weapons. I think they look like they can effectively move the ball better now with Tua back. But I just am going to have this squirrely feeling the entire time watching the game, even if they're up, that there's going to be some kind of mistake that makes it all blow up in their face.
Yeah, but isn't that like commonplace in the Mike McDaniel era? They don't just lose. They get crushed when they do lose, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like they don't have just normal bad losses. I guess last week kind of was, but Tua fumbling the snap, Tua having 3 fumbles in the game. I mean, like it just in the weirdest ways, this team finds ways to lose games, but also when they play good teams or when they're on national TV, you're right. Like something catastrophic seems to always happen. And the Dolphins are getting absolutely crushed. Tobin, do you remember, like, let me take you back to week 2. Do you remember that Thursday night, you and me doing this this Game Day Uncensored, this pregame show? The conversations we're having about the implications going into that game, like, we're talking about if the Dolphins don't win today or at least compete and make this, I mean, the era might be done. The Tua McDaniel era might be done. Like, we're talking about all the narratives about this team being soft and all the narratives about how this team can't compete in the AFC East and is never going to win a Super Bowl. All of that going away with that week 2 Thursday night football game. And the Dolphins had their quarterback throw 2 interceptions. Tua goes out. Like, it was catastrophic that night. And here we are again. And I was thinking to myself, can we approach this game the same way? Can the Dolphins save their season today? And can they kind of shake some of these demons by winning in Buffalo? But I don't think those narratives are up for like judgment anymore. Like they've been cemented after the week 2 loss. It is what it is.
Well, look, if they can somehow pull out the win today and then you look ahead, like, yeah, I suppose you could do that. So when that's a loss and see them rallying and tacking on a bunch of wins to things even out. But you're asking basically, can a shark walk on land? Like it's something you can't even fathom in your mind because, yeah, the thing that happened with Tua's injury, as scary as it was, it did put a bit of it put like a mask on what really happened in that game, which was they weren't even competing in the same game with the team. Like, yes, Tua got hurt, and obviously that was a big reason for the record being where it's out for the Miami Dolphins. I'm sure they have more wins if the quarterback is healthy. I'm sure they do. But it ultimately showed before that happened, like, once again, this team in your building, they've lost pieces. They're not really even used to each other yet. This was supposed to be the Bills kind of taking a step back. And it just felt like the Dolphins just urinated all over themselves, like just not even close. And so while this is yes, there are some stakes of, hey, you can go into their building. You could, what it would do is it would basically keep you alive. It'd almost be like being in a fight and you're down, 6 rounds to nothing in the scorecards and you get a 10-8 to kind of keep it alive for yourself. You're able to knock down your opponent, but the fight ain't over yet. That's basically what today is for the Dolphins. If they can come out, land a big-time punch on the Buffalo Bills, at least it keeps you alive in the fight. But there's still a lot, there's still a lot that they have to overcome, obviously. This still seems like a team that's searching for itself a little. How do they get their weapons back on the same page? How do they start getting their star receivers the football and start looking like the team that we all got excited about? There were elements of it last week for sure. It was obviously a competent football game to watch and didn't make me, want to put my head through a wall. So that was great. but also, we started seeing the defense get exposed a little bit. Like, we went all over their passing numbers and their PFF numbers, but really kind of buoyed by a lot of bad quarterbacks they faced. Kyler Murray's not even the creme de la creme, and he carved them up with a rookie.
Yep.
So,
yeah. Well, you let me know when you want to rehash our Cam Smith debate from last week, Tobin. I'm ready. I'm locked and loaded, baby. You let me know.
Tough. There was some tough aspects of it.
No, I mean, if you just want your DB just kind of lollygagging in the back of the end zone while the team's other wide receiver runs wide open, tiptoeing in the back, I mean, you got it right. Jalen Ramsey, you were 100% right. Yeah, this guy Cam Smith really doing it big, man. Yeah, you called that. Way to go, Jalen.
Yeah. Also, can you get to Kyler Murray once you're there? Like, you had him, Jalen. We'll take a little bit more of a look back at the loss that was Arizona last week. What the hell went wrong, and where the Miami Dolphins find themselves. What do they need to clean up to get themselves a victory? Game Day Uncensored, which is brought to you in part by your South Florida Chevy dealers looking for more power, capability, and technology with Chevy trucks. You're ready for anything Chevrolet. Together, let's drive. Back with more on Game Day Uncensored after this.
WQAM broadcasting live from the Ed Moore Sawgrass Auto
Sports WQAM FM 99.9 HD2 and always live on the free Odyssey app.
Brought to you by South Florida Lexus dealers and the Lexus RX, the luxury SUV for those who never want to lose their edge. Experience amazing at your Lexus dealer. Also sponsored by the free Odyssey app. Download it today to listen to us live or on demand. And by Edmore Sawgrass Chevrolet. Edmore Sawgrass Chevrolet is your lease return headquarters. Click EdmoreSawgrassChevrolet.com and see how you're backed by Morse when it comes to returning your lease. Ed Morse is a proud partner of the Miami Dolphins.
And welcome back, everybody. It's Game Day Uncensored here on 560 WQAM. Brendan Tobin here with you alongside Alejandro Solana. Dan Day producing this program. You'll be able to hear Dan today, post-game edition of Game Day Uncensored, right here on 560 WQAM. When are you going to get going today, Dan? What is the schedule? I always want to make sure I get it right.
Yeah, 4 o'clock, 4 to 7:30, going to lead you into Sunday Night Football.
There you go. 4 to 7:30 tonight. You guys can bring your either celebratory calls or miserable calls to Dan Day today.
I have a feeling I know which ones it's going to land on there, Tobin. Probably the latter.
Yeah, probably. And I think
If we win, though, I'm going to crack one open. I'm serious.
Deserved, dude. Deserved. Go find the supply and crack one open, because we'll all be celebrating if this can happen. Dolphins trying to keep any semblance of their season alive. I mean, the trade deadline is next week. We'll get into some of that, but there's already rumors about the Vultures are circling the Dolphins right now.
Yeah.
If we could take a little looky-loo back at last week's Solana, the Dolphins end up losing 28-27 to the Arizona Cardinals. Tua made his return, had a pretty good performance, 28-38, 234 yards and a touchdown. I would say the star of the game was Devon Achane. He was marvelous for the Miami Dolphins. Finished with about 140, almost 150 total yards. Had a touchdown. So that was one of the exciting elements from Miami. But I think it's honestly, you look at the mistakes, you look at the botch snap, and then Kyler Murray had his best game of the season, which is pretty crazy that, Kyler Murray, I believe, did this not spit in the face of the old Call of Duty release curse that was out there for his numbers? That's a theory with Kyler Murray. He's such a big gamer, but he finished with over 300 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, got on the same page with Marvin Harrison Jr. Him and Marvin Harrison Jr. really haven't been on the same page all season. And you kind of had a feeling, Solana, with the defense while they were playing good. You can only take so many legs out from under them before they're going to crumble. Like, no Jalen Phillips, no Javon Holland, no Kader Kohu, no Zach Sealer, who's probably your best player on defense. I don't know at what point we're gotten so used to the defense kind of showing the guts. At what point was it going to eventually catch up to him? And this felt very much like the game that it did.
And on top of that, Tobin, the defense was playing very well. Their numbers were good, but they weren't getting to the quarterback, and they weren't getting takeaways either. Like, at some point, if you can't get sacks, you can't force sacks, and you can't force turnovers, the other team is just going to carve you up at some point, no matter how good you've been playing. We talked about it going into last week, right, Tobin? Like, it's crazy how good the defense looks. It's crazy how good their numbers are when they're not doing the two biggest things that usually indicate a top defense. So at some point, that was going to come and kind of bite them in the ass, and it did. But Tobin, two things can be true about this game, right? Two things can be true. The Dolphins with Tua Tagovailoa healthy, under center, move the ball, don't make the offense look miserable, don't make the fans watching miserable, and it obviously works, right? Like, they were able to move the ball, they had a balanced attack. But B, this could also be true, even with Tua healthy, the Dolphins just weren't good enough to beat a good team, but not great team. And that's the concerning part right there, right? Like, they had their guys healthy. It looked okay. The offense looked good. They scored 27 points, but that still wasn't good enough to go and beat a good team. And to me, that's the most concerning part, because last year the Dolphins were able to beat good teams, not great teams. This year, healthy, they squeaked by a really bad team in Jacksonville thanks to a Javon Holland punch-out. And now our first opportunity with Tua against a good team, and they weren't able to do it. So I don't know how you continue to move forward here thinking that this team can compete with the elite in the AFC, because right now they just can't.
No, it's totally fair. They can't. And I think that, we were even saying this last week. I remember saying, like, I didn't know how good the Cardinals were. I kind of thought they were mediocre. And that's really what Mike McDaniel's bread and butter has been. I mean, the entire era of his has been beating mediocre to bad teams at home. I still don't know how good the Arizona Cardinals are, though. I mean, they have some really explosive weapons. I think the thing, though, that you look is, man, it's tough not to look at them going up by 10 and the ball slipping through Tua's hands, and you give them back-to-back scoring possessions to get them right back in the game, because it did feel like you had them dead in the water a little bit, and you completely gave them life. And I understand that the Dolphins ended up, going back up again, getting another touchdown, but still, like, you just can't give those teams life, man. You can't give these windows to them. And
not at home.
It was
not at home, man.
No way. And then it was the same thing the week beforehand in Indy, where you give them the 2 fumbles right on the ground. So now you're talking about, okay, you have a defense that is not going to take away the football, and anytime you do, you're never going to even it out, because the defense can't take away the picks. I mean, even the picks that they've had this year, or the turnovers they've had this year, have been crazy. Like, you have the punch out, you had like a pop-up one to Zach Sealer. You had that Emmanuel Agba catch with his thighs. And then to boot, by the way, speaking of Emmanuel Agba, think about even some of the defenders that are out there that are playing banged up. Like Jordan Boyer has basically been banged up since training camp. Emmanuel Agba was playing with a torn bicep. David Long's banged up. So you also have guys who are just kind of trying to play through it on top of the guys you already don't have. It's a very, very shaky foundation that they have out there right now. So yeah, all in all, I don't, and this is, this is where the pressure goes back to the offense, because look, yes, it was Tua's first game back. Thought he looked pretty good. He did fumble 3 times, including that snap, which we'll get into a little bit more, because he was very snippy about it this week. But his ball control was not there where it needed to be. You had Julian Hill. Oh, Julian Hill. Almost had it, dude. The amount of texts and tweets I got when Julian Hill nearly scored that touchdown. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I can. He's not playing today. He's out. But I don't. How is he going to get closer than that to scoring the anytime touchdown? How?
He's not. That was it. You had it.
I mean, it's not going to happen. I have no. That was the closest I'm ever going to come to hitting that bet, and I just think I mean, this may be the time where I need to go have a meeting with people and just be like, I don't know if I can bet this man anymore.
I'm watching that and I'm saying, oh my God. Oh no. And all I'm thinking about is your dumbass, because you keep betting on the Hard Rock app. I told you, just send me the money, Tobin. I'll put it to better use. I'll get a studio at my home that doesn't have this bad echo. Like, I'll figure it out, man, because I mean, he has the touchdown. He has it.
I know.
And to fumble at the goal line, of all the thing your boy, that's just a moose, has done this year, to fumble at the goal line is just unbelievable, man. It's the Dolphins in a nutshell this year. It really
has been. It really has been. What back? Thankfully they got it back and they were able to score, but not the same. Like it should have been. It should have been this moment for him, and instead it's like, nope, he's still a rhinoceros on the field. He can't control the football. So, yeah, I mean, it really just showed with the Dolphins. You're right. Like, what if they can't beat the Cardinals at home and you have a 2-score lead? What are the games you're expected to go win? And so we turn the attention to this week, and it's like, well, now you have to go on the road. You have to go against a team and a quarterback that completely have your number. You're even more banged up on defense. It all is going to be on the offense today. It feels like they have to have some type of a performance, Solana, that's like, hey, there's been so many times through the time, basically like since thinking like middle of November last year, right? There's been so many times where the defense tattered, beaten up. You're like, there's no way this defense should be in the game. And yet, they've given the Dolphins chance after chance. Yeah. It would be so nice today if this offense could show some damn guts, go out there, get a lead, hold a lead. We've seen an ability for them to run the football and take some pressure, have long drives to take that pressure off the defense. But it just feels like they're going to goof it up at some point. They're going to have some critical error where ball's on the ground, bad pick. Who knows? Like, I'm just waiting for it. I'm waiting for the offense to screw up at some point and the defense just being like, all right, I guess we'll go try this again with our torn biceps and our 40-year-olds.
Yeah, and just really quickly, Tobin, going back to that game against Arizona, I mean, the Dolphins, don't forget, before Arizona gets the ball back to go on that game-winning drive, the Dolphins have the lead, and they have a chance to go pick up a couple first downs and win the game.
Yep.
Just go kill the clock. Go move the chains. Go pick up some first downs. And how many times have we seen that in the Tua era? Look, I go back to, I'm not blaming it on Tua, by the way, only, but I go back to Tennessee. Everybody last year, right, on Monday Night Football, the game that kind of we all feel ruined the Dolphins season, all right?
Yep.
But I go back to last year, and everybody wants to look at the Dolphins having a 14-point lead and saying the defense blew the game, right? The defense blew the game. And if you remember in that game, the Dolphins were down. It was like 10-6, I think, going into the fourth quarter. And it wasn't until the Dolphins finally broke through, got a touchdown, and then the defense forced a turnover again on the very next Tennessee possession late in the fourth that Miami was able to get the ball back. Raheem Mostert scores, and you have a 2-score lead. I mean, the Dolphins offense struggled in that game for 3 quarters, played miserable. And then in the fourth quarter, you build a 14-point lead. Yes, the defense had some grave errors. There's absolutely no doubt. They got cooked by Will Levis. But the offense, on 2 separate occasions, late in the fourth quarter, gets the ball and has the opportunity to pick up some first downs and go ice the clock, go win the game. You have one pivotal drive. You're up 6. You know if you punt this ball back to Tennessee, they have momentum. Go get a first down, 3 and out. And the other day against Arizona, same thing. After a turnover on Tua fumbling the snap, the Dolphins get the ball back. McDaniel, Tua in the offense, has an opportunity here. Put together a nice couple-minute drive. Go ice the clock. Force Arizona to burn their timeouts. At least move the chains a little bit so you could switch field position and give yourself an advantageous opportunity on the defensive end. And they fail consistently to do that. And to me, that's another issue with this team that needs to be addressed, because if you're good and you're great and you want to be considered great and you want to take this next step, at some point, aside from a game-winning drive where you're down and you have to go get points, which this team can't really muster that up either consistently, how about when you're winning and it's late and it's a 1-score game, but you have the ball? Go get the first downs you need to ice the game. Tobin, great teams can consistently do that. The Dolphins fall short every single time, it seems.
Yeah, and you're definitely right on that. And then, like, to think that, man, Mike McDaniel finally got a challenge to go his way. I thought 100% that wasn't going to go his way. With the challenge, the throw to Jonnu over the middle, and you're like, all right, measurement worked out for him. All right, you're at midfield. You can't at least get 3. You can't get 3 out of that. Like, how does that happen? Like, I don't know if he was just so elated because he finally won a challenge and Mike McDaniel just kind of got lost in the sauce and he goes, I should definitely not give the ball to Tyreek Hill here. Like, I don't know. Like, but it's one of those things where, yeah, you finally have a break. Because I thought for sure when that ball, I'm like, he's gonna lose. Like, I'm waiting as soon as that red flag comes out. I am waiting and ready to see Mike McDaniel just look bewildered because he always loses the challenge, but he finally wins one. And that man can't get you another 10 yards to give old Fat Cat Sanders a chance.
10. That's it. That's all you needed. By the way,
just
hey, every time McDaniel throws a challenge flag, you know who dreads it more than anybody? The referee closest to the Dolphin sideline. Because, you know, like the main official has to go look at the replay. There's always one ref that kind of runs on the boundary or on the sideline that has to stand next to the head coach. And you know that guy's like, oh, no. Oh, no. And McDaniel's just like, so here's what I saw. And isn't this the rule? And he's just talking to him. He's talking his ear off. And that referee's just like, oh, my God. Please.
I won't stop.
Please stop. Please.
Like they should, if he does get challenged, right, they should make a referee sit through a Mike McDaniel press conference as punishment. That's what they should do. No, like honestly, watching him on the sidelines it's comedy because he's got, you know, a lot of coaches, the great poker face, you know, they don't really change, you know, maybe, you know, Saban gets irate a kid every once in a while, but for the most part, he looks like he's living and dying with everything. But the funniest thing is, like, when his plays aren't working, he gets so excited to run up and down the sidelines like a cocker spaniel, just like never mind. Like he's just in the ref's pocket the entire time, like just right by him, and then it's just and then he adores throwing the challenge flag, but I never feel like it's gonna work out for him. I never ever feel confident when that man throws his challenge flag that it's gonna go the Dolphins' way. It did. Unfortunately, then with a fresh set of downs, he did nothing with it. So
why does he strut the sidelines like he's Zoolander on like the stage? Like there's some weird way when he struts the sidelines, like he walks with like this demeanor where, you know, like and I love Mike McDaniel, man, but like there's some stuff on the sideline that I always marvel at. By the way, I've been saying this for a couple of years, Tobin, and disagree if you want, ladies and gentlemen, but let Mike McDaniel vape on the sidelines. Maybe that's what we need. Let Mike McDaniel vape on the sidelines. It worked 2 years ago, didn't it? I mean, just let him rip the nicotine
they didn't
vape.
Win that game. They didn't win that game.
Yeah, I think they did.
I don't think they did. I think that was the Buffalo. I think that was the Buffalo game.
Was it the Buffalo road game? It was cold.
I think it was.
Game, man.
It was a respectable performance, but it was not a win. It was not a win. You know. It's like watching the Heat yesterday in Mexico City, and you're just like, you know what? Maybe they should do tequila shots before every game.
Yeah.
maybe that's the answer. It's gonna be like the Red Sox in 2004 taking the whiskey shots.
Yeah.
Be like they gather around the circle instead of 15 strong, it's 15 shots. And just like, all right, everybody, cheers to this performance out here. We're about to go take on the Kings, being a little hungover against Sabonis. Cheers.
Yeah, why not? I mean, Jimmy Butler's on a pose. Your text message to me last night was spot on. He looked like there may have been a little Patron action in his system.
Listen, nobody loves playing in a foreign country more than Jimmy. He's like, we got to travel? He's having fun, though. Good for him. We'll take a break. We will get into a little bit more of the Dolphins injuries. We got some Zach Sealer updates on the week. The Miami Dolphins star defensive tackle is still out. And Javon Holland, he remains a situation as well. So we'll get into some of this as Gameday Uncensored rolls on back after this.
Text WQAM on the Kendall Toyota
AM 560 Sports, WQAM. FM 99.9 HD2, and always live on the free Odyssey app.
Brought to you by South Florida Lexus dealers and the Lexus RX, the luxury SUV for those who never want to lose their edge. Experience amazing at your Lexus dealer. Also sponsored by the free Odyssey app. Download it today to listen to us live or on demand. And by Edmore Sawgrass Cadillac. When it comes to returning your lease, Ed Morse has your back. Ed Morse Sawgrass Cadillac is your lease return headquarters. Click edmoresawgrasscadillac.com. Ed Morse is a proud partner of the Miami Dolphins.
And welcome back, everybody. It is Game Day Uncensored here, 560 WQAM. Brendan Tobin here with you alongside Alejandro Solana, getting you ready for Week 9 of the NFL season. Dolphins visiting the Buffalo Bills, and we'll see if the Dolphins can save their season. If they lose this one, I think everyone's going to be starting to look at who are they going to oust on the trade deadline. We'll get into a little bit of that later. But with the Miami Dolphins struggling a little bit, Solana, here was Austin Jackson earlier this week, and the Dolphins right tackle says they're hurting over all these losses. Here's Austin Jackson.
Not a lot needs to be said, to be honest. I think as a team, we're ready to speak more with our actions on the football field and with our work ethic. Just not a lot to be said. It just hurt. Everyone in that locker room was hurting after that loss.
Yeah. So are we, Austin.
Yeah. But you know what, Tobin? They were adamant, right? Like, wasn't it Anthony Weaver who said, hey, Tua provides hope. Like, Tua gives us hope. So I think, Tyreek Hill was on the verge of tears that Tua was coming back. I mean, yeah, man, like, even for them, don't you think it was almost a shock? Like, damn, I mean, we're healthy. We got Tua back. We can't beat the Cardinals. Like, had to have been a shock for them, no?
I'm sure it was, because the mistakes that they make are just crazy. Because it's like, really? Like, this all unraveled because a safety hit our QB in the hands? Like, what? Like, this, it felt, like you said, it felt very Titans-esque. It felt like it was kind of rolling finally to be the Dolphins' day. And, remember we had the moment where Tua slides and everybody's going crazy. I still hated that he ran, by the way. But everybody's going crazy because he slides and everybody's fired up. And it really felt like
5.5 today. I'm just saying, over 5.5 today. If you're interested, Tobin.
It felt like in that moment, you're like, oh, this is finally going to be their day. They're gonna feel like, all right, you know what, going our way. We'll have a respectable record. Maybe we'll even things up against Buffalo. But, I think the old adage is just like bad teams find a way to lose right now, man. And that just feels like what they are. The talent, while yes, you still have the star power in names, I don't know, collectively something's just missing. And I think a lot of that you do have to put on Mike McDaniel, because it's one of these things where it's almost like when there are mistakes, they're just the worst kind and the team just can't rally about it.
Yeah.
It's not a matter of just, hey, shooting yourselves in the foot and it's like, we can get past this. No, it's almost like you lose a complete limb if you go there, man. It's wild to me.
Not that I'm trying to defend McDaniel, by the way, Tobin, but I don't know, man. Like, part of me says, bro, your quarterback, Tua, who has a lot to prove, who just got paid, hey, maybe catch a snap.
100%.
Right?
100%.
I just went on a rant in the previous segment about how the Dolphins have to put together these game-closing or game-winning drives. Part of that is obviously Mike McDaniel scheming up the right plays. And I think he oftentimes drops the ball, figuratively, on those types of possessions. Tua drops the ball literally in that type of possession. And like, I don't blame Mike McDaniel for that. I don't blame Aaron Brewer for that either. Tua, that ball was, and I know we'll get into it, Tobin, but like, catch the ball. I mean, there's some of these mistakes. Those two fumbles last week 2 weeks ago against
brutal.
the Colts.
It was brutal.
So, I'm down to hold Mike McDaniel accountable for those 4 weeks where the Dolphins looked awful. I'm here for that conversation every single day, whoever wants to have it. I'm here to talk about Chris Grier and holding him accountable for this roster he built with obvious deficiencies and a lack of depth and just no quarterback plan. Like, I'm here to have those conversations. But also, hey, your players, let's hold them accountable too. Tyreek Hill, you were bad for a couple weeks when the Dolphins needed you to be great. Tua Tagovailoa, you come back. We're all happy for you. We're happy. We're thrilled that you're healthy, that you slid. We'll cheer for you. Uno, you're our QB. Hey, maybe don't fumble the ball 3 times and give up 2 points in a crucial part of the game. I think at some point, like, we have to stop just blaming the head coach and blaming the general manager, who deserve blame, but also hold these guys accountable too, because it's 50-50 at this point. Nobody's putting on a great season outside of Calais Campbell.
Outside of Calais Campbell and Zach Sealer before he got his eye gouged out by probably Liam Eichenberg, even though he denies it, which I don't believe. Yeah, Zach Sealer, by the way, remains out. He's out today. That's going to be tough, man. I mean, no Zach Sealer against this run attack. Their numbers aren't like top of the league, but we've already seen James Cook had his best performance of the season against Miami. We know not having him against a Josh Allen can be tough. So definitely a big blow not to have Sealer out there. Then on top of it, you don't have Javon Holland, who's now dealing with a knee on top of a broken hand. And you got to wonder for him too, Solana, like, when does it be like, when does he start making like business decisions instead of being like, oh, I'll get back as soon as possible, especially if the season, they lose today. Like, what are you coming back to at that point if you're him?
Remember, I told you that a couple weeks ago. He's coming off the bye against the Colts. He had surgery, and he was trying to play. He was trying to practice after having surgery. And I'm like, bro, look, I love Javon, and I think he's really good. I think it's pretty obvious the Dolphins don't intend to pay him what he believes he deserves. A, I don't know if they have the resources to do it. And B, I think they would have done it by now. Everybody that the Dolphins valued got paid already. Everybody. And the players that they don't, well, there's a pretty good track record with what happens. They end up going and getting paid somewhere else, right? So Christian Wilkins and who's the offensive lineman? He's slipping my mind now. Robert Hunt, right? Like, all the Dolphins, a lot of money. All the Dolphins' young elite players who didn't get paid end up going and getting paid elsewhere. To me, the writing's kind of on the wall, and it sucks because I love Javon. So
yeah, somebody who has secondary issues is going to give him a whole heap of money. Like, people always think that, oh, no, like, he's had durability issues the last couple of years. Like, nah, someone's going to pay him some money. And then, honestly, like, if this does go awry, is he not their best trade asset? Like, a young guy going into free agency. I don't know if you can get a first-round pick for him, but, like, I'm looking at all the old guys that they could probably flip. I think they're all going to be late-round draft picks, probably, unless there's, like, a bidding war for Calais Campbell on the last seat. Like, everybody wants to get in on that. But, yeah, it's just tough for him because I think that he did have some element of things to prove the way last season ended. He obviously is responsible for one of the wins this season in a terrible season. And everybody raves about his versatility. This is just unfortunate that he's had a couple of things just nagging at him. And really, it's a big blow because then you're relying on older guys. This guy is supposed to be one of the captains of your defense out there. It's a brutal loss. And then on top of it, they don't have Kader Kohu today, who's had a really nice season. He's dealing with a neck issue. So this is 2 straight games Kader's been out there. Storm Duck might come back today. But again, you're relying on rookies in a scenario where the more established guys just aren't able to go. It's a tough ask for the defense.
No, I mean, it's just the theme of the season, right? You're constantly put in bad situations. And I mean, you're elevating like Neil Farrell, because Zach Sealer can't go. So the Dolphins are basically running it with like a skeleton crew, man. Like, really, I mean, that's what they're doing right now. And I mean, it's not what you want to do when you have to go play your division rival and like try to save your season, try to salvage your season. If they can pull it off today, Tobin, honestly, if they can pull it off, then maybe we have to give them the benefit of the doubt to actually go save this season, to actually go flip the script and go win like 5 of 7, or I don't know. I'm just saying I would give them the benefit of the doubt to go prove it to us that they can do it. Again, going back to our initial conversation, I just don't see a pathway for them to get it done based on all the things we're discussing. I mean, let alone that Josh Allen's your daddy. I mean, listen to all the names that are out today.
Well, it's one of those things, too, where we've been doing this now basically since Tua's been out.
Yeah.
And we've been rationalizing, being like, well, it is, it is the Colts, it is the Cardinals, it is the Titans. Like, they should, if it was going to happen at a part of the schedule, this is the schedule. And they woefully underperformed that situation. So now we're going to talk about going to the division leader and going on the road to their building, and they've also had your number. It's just one of those things where, like, yeah, I get it. If you're sitting here and you're the most optimistic Dolphin fan in the world, kudos to you. Kudos to you. I'm not sitting here and I'm not telling you that I'm rooting for losses, and I'm not here rooting for tanking. I just feel like if you're believing in that, you're just believing on hope. And that's it. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you're the most optimistic fan, hey, I've been there before. Heat Bucks a couple of years ago. I was the only dope out here saying Heat in 5.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of those things where you're just going off of hope. There's not really a great reason for it with the way they've executed, the bodies available, the track record of the rivalry. Josh Allen has lost twice in his NFL career to the Miami Dolphins. One was as a rookie, drop touchdown. The other, they completely ran out of time in a crazy game where Ken Dorsey lost his mind. Now, we all made fun of it. It was a great day. But I think the thing that's almost disappointing about that is that season for the Dolphins, man, they were very, very close with Buffalo in a lot of these games. And I thought going into last year, I thought the rivalry was going to be even to the Dolphins maybe passing them. And every time, the first game, the Dolphins got drubbed by the Buffalo Bills. The next game was a little bit closer. But this one at home, you're like, all right, prove it. Nope. Sorry. Worst performance of the season. Don't know what to tell you. So they just have a lot of things that have to get right. And I just don't know if they have the talent or the mental fortitude to get it done.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Tobin, listen to this. Listen to who the Dolphins have available at defensive line today. Farrell, who they've promoted, right, from the practice squad.
Yep.
Calais Campbell, dog, for sure.
Monster. Yep.
But then it's Benito Jones, Deshaun Hand, and Brandon Pilley as their defensive linemen today. Like, look, no disrespect to those guys, bro, but you're going up against Josh Allen in Buffalo.
Yeah, they're not Zach Sealer.
James Cook, who literally cooked you at home. Like, it's not Zach Sealer. It's not JP. It's not what we signed up for. It's not what the Dolphins signed up for, to go up against somebody this mobile. I mean, good luck to those guys.
Well, we've already seen them have issues with the mobile quarterback this year. Like, Kyler Murray diced him up, and even Anthony Richardson, who, again, cannot stress this enough. The Dolphins lost to a quarterback who lost his job in a week's time. Even he got going. They couldn't bring him down, and he was able to march the Colts down the field and give them a win. So, I don't know.
When you fumble twice, you give that you give anybody a chance, Tobin. I mean, I could be back there under center. The Dolphins are going to give me a chance. They're fumbling the ball over the field. They're just handing the ball over to the other team.
Just to give some other things, River Craycraft did return to practice this week. He's not coming back for this game, but it seems like River will be back for next week.
No problem. Odell Beckham Jr. game today for sure. Book it.
Yep.
What could
100%.
go wrong?
100%. He's still running 20 miles an hour, he said.
Right. No, it's great cardio sesh over there. Take the over on calories burned by Odell Beckham Jr. strictly from running.
The Dolphins also, you mentioned Neil Farrell, but they also have to bring up Matt Overton because Blake Ferguson went on IR for personal reasons, so he's not even allowed to come back. He has to sit out two more games. Yeah, he has to sit out 2 more games. Yeah. So it seems like they're going to have to put Overton on the active roster because this is his last that he's able to be brought up. And only the Dolphins are doing the shell game with the long snapper.
The long snapper, man.
It's crazy.
But Tobin, no disrespect to Overton, who I guess has been fine, right? Like I haven't seen any snap issues on field goals or punts or whatever. But I mean, aren't these guys just like a dime a dozen, right?
I
Like,
don't know.
Are we really wasting a 53-man spot? Like, hey, Blake Ferguson, I don't know what happened, I'm not going to speculate here. Hopefully everything's okay with him and his family and whatever. But I mean, we're really going to waste 2 roster spots on long snappers? I mean,
dude, let me tell you something. I got into the biggest argument maybe of the summer this year with Leroy Horde because I was talking about why don't we have any hybrid centers who can do both? I don't understand it. And then I get this argument because all we're talking about is how valuable roster spots are. You're telling me there's not anybody out there, any center who's good enough to snap the ball back to the
Why does it have to be
kicker.
a center? Why does it have to be a center? Huh, you're telling me, Tobin, last year, Christian Wilkins, for a couple of years, we saw Christian Wilkins just bulldoze people in the fullback spot. He would take a handoff. Centers, tackles, they'll go catch a football every now and then, right? They go report
100%.
eligible.
You're telling me,
somebody can't, like Calais Campbell. I know he's a veteran, probably a bad choice. But hey, Deshaun Hand. Hey, your last name is Hand. Go prove you can use it. Okay, go snap the damn football to my placeholder.
Let me get this straight. You're telling me that Travis Hunter can play wide receiver and cornerback for Colorado, but there's not a center or tight end out there who can do both good enough. Like Julian Hill, he can't also snap. That's out of the realm of possibility.
Anything that requires anything
but
that requires
Smythe, like
holding the football.
I've never understood this. We have to actually waste a roster spot on somebody who only snaps. It's crazy to me. Because we saw last week, we'll get into this more coming on the other side, but that heater that Brew had back to Tua, that was basically another hand from being a long snap. How come he can't do it? He seems like he gets plenty of velo on his snaps. I'm just lashing out right now.
There's no way, Tobin. There's no way centers who have started in the NFL for years can't long snap. I won't believe it. I won't believe it.
It is such a crazy. How nobody has hacked this system to me is insane. Remember when Matt Bosher came onto the Falcons and he was going to do both? He was going to punt and kick field goals. Former Canes kicker and punter. I think he eventually settled in on being a kicker, but he could do both. And wouldn't you want the super ability to have a guy who could do both? I don't know. We'll take a break. Speaking of that disastrous play, probably the juiciest bite of the week was Tua getting all snippy about it. We'll bring you that coming up next on Gameday Uncensored.
Football coverage on
Uncensored on WQAM Miami, WPOW HD2 Miami, WKIS HD2 Boca Raton, an Odyssey Sports Station.
Powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys.
Call 1-800-747-FREE.
That's 1-800-747-3733.
It's another Game Day Uncensored.
The Dolphins are in Buffalo today for the victory. And believe me, it's been tough for the Finns to get any wins over the Bills. Tua's reaction to the question about what the Dolphins need to do was short and terse.
We got to beat them. They're good, and it's like the same thing over and over. You got to beat them.
Mike McDaniel was more descriptive and remains confident about his team.
I believe we have the right guys to get that fixed, and so we'll press forward with no other thought. But that's to be proud of the game we put out there and understand what it takes for this team to win against any opponent. The biggest opponent that we have to overcome is ourselves, really.
But is confidence enough? Well, we're going to find out shortly. Time to work out our game plan on Game Day Uncensored. The pregame show for real Miami football fans. Tobin and Solana with Omar and Beasley on AM 560 Sports, WQAM. FM 99.9 HD2 and always live on the free Odyssey app.
Brought to you by South Florida Lexus dealers and the Lexus RX, the luxury SUV for those who never want to lose their edge. Experience amazing at your Lexus dealer. Also sponsored by the free Odyssey app. Download it today to listen to us live or on demand. And by Edmore Sawgrass Buick GMC. No matter where you leased your vehicle, bring it to Edmore Sawgrass Buick GMC, your lease return headquarters. It's all a part of being backed by Morse. Click EdmoreSawgrassBuickGMC.com, a proud partner of the Miami Dolphins.
And welcome back, everybody. It is Game Day Uncensored here, 560 WQAM. Brendan Tobin here with you alongside Alejandro Solana. Dan Day producing our program today. You can hear Dan coming up. He is hosting Game Day Uncensored post-game edition starting at 4 p.m., 4 to 7:30 right here on 560 WQAM. You guys can watch us on YouTube and Twitch. Miami 560 WQAM is the handle there, and free on the Odyssey app. AUDACY, free in your app stores. Dolphins getting ready for the Buffalo Bills. And let us get to our keys to the game here, brought to you by Doral Hyundai. At Doral Hyundai, choose from over 1,300 new Hyundai models in inventory like the Tucson, Sonata, and Palisade. Remember, when it comes to Hyundai, the great deals are at Doral Hyundai. And the key to the game today, Solana, is the Miami Dolphins taking care of the damn football, because there have been back-breaking turnovers these last couple of games. It has put them in a gnarly spot. And the one that obviously stands out from last week is the botch snap, which led to a safety, which then led to another scoring drive. And, you know, we've heard salty Tua. That has been a thing where, you know, Tua's going after people. You know, he goes after Flores, he goes after Chris Sims, he goes after Ryan Clark, he goes after his haters, you know, people who say you can't throw the deep ball. We've definitely known a Tua that stands up for himself a little bit more. But this one to me felt like it was aimed a little bit at the people at home. And I think it was a misfire by Tua. If you guys did not hear it earlier in the week, here was Tua Tagovailoa on his botch snap that led to a safety.
Sure, it's as simple as catching the ball in the gun. But I would say I'm a pretty good shortstop guy. I have pretty good vision. I have pretty good hands. I mean, I'd like to see a lot of other people go in the back there and try to catch that ball too. You've seen it wasn't Brew's best, and Brew knows he can get it better, but it wasn't my best as well. But I'm just saying, to give perspective, it's not as easy as what it looked like sitting down on your couch eating chips.
The under center one?
The under center one, that was just my fault. Yep.
There you go. Tua this week. What did you make, Solana, of him being pretty snippy about, look, chips or no chips? That seemed about as, maybe not like a super routine, but not like the craziest reception a man of his shortstop stature would have to make What'd you make of Tua being all snippy about it?
I look, he's right. Like, let me preface all this by saying he's right. Yeah, I mean, could I have caught that snap? No, I'm not going to sit here and say any of us could have caught that snap, even though maybe. But here's my thing. Okay, Tua is not this guy. Tua, throughout his career, is not the guy that is telling you, oh, people at home, you can't do what I do, and he's right. Like, nobody can. I don't question that, but it looks to me bad for him to come out after you lose where part of it was you having turnovers, fumbling the ball 3 times in a game, and then coming out now all of a sudden and being snappy to and saying, hey, fans, shut up because you can't do what I do. And while he's right, we can't. I don't know, like, you're paid to go out there and win football games. You're paid pretty well now to go out there and win football games. We haven't seen you in 5 weeks because you haven't been available. Now you're available and you dropped the ball that you needed to catch. And now you want to play the, hey, don't criticize me because I can do this and you can't roll. Like, I don't know. I think he came off bad there, despite being right. Like, take responsibility. Hey, you know what? I should have caught the ball. That's it. Period. End of story. You fumbled 3 times in the game, man. Like, you can't do that.
And fumbles all the time, by the way. Like, he had double-digit fumbles last year. Nearly a fumble a game.
And snaps have been an issue with him. Have they not, Tobin? Like, I think
Definitely.
it's fair to say that. And look, last year with Connor Williams, there were some snaps that were not great. And there were some that, were snapped over him, below him, where that was an issue for sure. But man, we all saw the replay. I'm sorry. Was it the best snap in the world? No. Was it a snap he could have had? He could have corralled? Absolutely. Like, he dropped the ball. He said it where later on in that presser, he said something along the lines of, the ball's coming fast, and he has so many things that he's doing, right? And to me, it's pretty simple. Like, this offense is predicated on Tua catching. His eyes are scanning the field quickly. He's trying to get the ball out quick, right? Under 2.5 seconds. We know, like, that's the game plan by the Dolphins. So there's a lot going on. So he literally has to catch the ball while simultaneously looking at what's happening within a second of him catching the ball. And I think it's pretty clear that he didn't keep his eyes on the ball when it got snapped to him. It wasn't exactly in the breadbasket. And by the time he went to catch it, it skid off his hands. And yeah, it led to a safety. I'm sorry, man. Like, that game, he catches that pass, that hike, and we're probably talking about the Dolphins winning the football game.
Agreed.
So take responsibility for what happened there, which is you dropped a snap that, fine, you want to say it wasn't Aaron Brewer's best, fine, I guess. Bro, that snap was fine, man. Like, that thing just skid off his hands, period.
Even if it was a heater, like, look, he basically had the answer nailed until he had to just add the extra sauce on the end where he goes, at home eating your chips. Up until then, the answer was a little ridiculous, calling yourself a good shortstop, because, I mean, again, you do fumble a lot, dude. For a shortstop, you got about as clunky hands as I've seen. And I know that he's very, like, if you guys go watch, like, Brian Baldinger's Baldy's breakdowns, what Tua can do. You saw it with the Julian Hill play where he's able to, like, misdirect, do some crazy things with his eyes to no look pass it. I get that he can be very skilled with that. But the thing is like, but that is also, that's supposed to be like extra on top of doing the routine stuff. I don't need you to do a magic trick if you don't know how to just get onto stage. That's like one of these things with him. I think that this is a guy who mostly has handled himself pretty great publicly. He has certainly taken the victory lap almost on his haters. He's gone the extra mile to do that, which fine. I get it. You get paid the contract. You want to run up the score on some people. Cool. But you also have to realize, like, what are you going at the fans for? Like, first of all, for the most part, everybody was thrilled to see you out there. Everybody's thrilled to see you. They were happy that you're sliding. But this position comes with criticism. It does. And I don't think it's out of the craziness. It's not an unreasonable thought or expectation fans have of you catching snaps. I don't think it is. If it goes over your head, all right, that's on Brewer. We all saw it. But I'm sure there are plenty of times where you've thrown to a receiver that's been in a window and you're like, hey, you got to make that catch. Like, maybe it's not go make the play. That's all it is. And, if your retort is always, well, you couldn't do it at home. It's like, yeah, but not my job. I'm here to watch you. There's a reason I don't watch the XFL or Pros versus Joes. I'm watching the National Football League, the best of the best. And while the best can mess up all the time, don't then tell me something that you guys practice and do timing. You've been doing this for 5 weeks. You've been everything's been on point. Dude, come on. You know that you were supposed to have that. And if you do think it's more on Aaron Brewer, just say we botched it and move on with the answer. Why you have to then take the extra mile and being like, hey, you guys couldn't do it. It's like, cool. Fantastic. Okay. Be like if I went to if I was getting my house refurbished and the light switch didn't turn on and the electrician, I'm like, hey man, I thought the lights were going to work. And he goes, you couldn't do it. It's like, what? What's the argument there? I don't really understand. This is your profession. Catch the damn football. So
what rubbed me the wrong way, Tobin, is that like Tua's never been that guy. He's not. He's never been that guy. And I get what you're saying. He's taken his victory laps this year. Cocky Tua. He has more aggressiveness in his answers. Like I like that stuff. By the way, I like that from Tua. I think he's showing his true colors. Where for a while he couldn't be that guy, and now because of the contract, he's been able to say, hey, look, like, hey, I'm here. Like I'm really good at what I do. And I like that. I'm cool with that. But to me, the first time he calls out the fans being after a loss where it was in large part because of his deficiencies on the field and because of his mistakes, it was just a weird direction to take it because like you fumbled a snap, bro. You're not a good shortstop. I'm sorry. Like you're not Alex Gonzalez. You're not Derek Jeter. Like you're just not. Yeah,
you're
right. You're Hanley.
You're Hanley booting the ball to the bullpen. Tommy Hutton going nuts. Oh, man, Tommy Hutton was mad at Hanley for that. I'm trying to think of other bad Marlins defensive shortstops, but Hanley definitely is the worst.
Yeah, well, he would hit bombs though, man. So like,
he was great.
I love Hanley.
Made up for it, but that dude had stone.
And we love Tua. We love Tua. He hits grand slams too. He hits bombs too. But he's not the best defensive shortstop. He's just not.
Well, it is an interesting thing with him, right? Like he came back, and I don't know, maybe it was more directed at media than it was at fans, but it comes off as fans when you say chips on your couch eating chips. But he comes back and he has the concussion press conference. And it's very, it's very contentious. It's very contentious. And then they lose. Well, I don't expect him to be in a great mood, but then days later, it's like, yeah, but I still got to get my shots in here. It's like, all right, what's going on with him? Like, is he just in a bad mood because of where the record is? Is he in a bad mood just because of the frustration of the season? Like, what's going on there? He did have a new hairdo this week though, so that's kind of cool, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, fine. I'm so past like liking the hairdos and like do whatever you want. I don't care. But how about you go win football games? But Tobin, even if it is directed at the media, I'm confused at this because I realize, especially from the fans, like there's always this thing that the media is against the team and the media is anti-Dolphins. I'm sorry, correct me if I'm wrong here, but didn't pretty much everybody in the media have high expectations for this team? I mean, Tobin, we did. Like, I expected them to compete with Buffalo. I didn't expect them to win the division, and I didn't expect them to win the Super Bowl, but I expected them to be a playoff team. I expected them to still be a good, very good football team this year. And most of the writers in South Florida, most of them had their questions about the team, as, that's fair. But all of them had them competing, for a playoff position. So it's not like the media since day one of this season has been crushing Tua. It's not like the media has been saying, this team isn't going to be any good. Everybody was in favor of Tua getting that contract. Everybody thought he deserved the contract, and the Dolphins were probably going to give it to him. So I'm confused here. Like, you lose the game, you get crushed for it because of a mistake you made. The media is going to report on the mistake you made. That's their job. And the fans' jobs at home as consumers is to react to what happens on the field. And guess what? On the field, you botched a snap that cost you the game. Sorry, people are going to talk about it.
Dade South says it well in the chat where he says, Tua's just got to eat that one like we do chips. Mm-hmm. He's right. Amen. 100%. We'll take a break here on Game Day Uncensored. The trade deadline is looming for the Miami Dolphins. How much does this game play into what they are going to do coming up on Tuesday? And Adam Beasley is going to join us later on this hour. We will talk to Miami Dolphins insider from Pro Football Network. Our boy Bees will join us at about 10:35. Take a break. Back with more to this.
WQAM broadcasting live from the Ed Moore
WQAM, FM 99.9 HD2, and always live on the free Odyssey app.
Brought to you by South Florida Lexus dealers and the Lexus RX, the luxury SUV for those who never want to lose their edge. Experience amazing at your Lexus dealer. Also sponsored by the free Odyssey app. Download it today to listen to us live or on demand. And by Edmore Sawgrass Buick GMC. No matter where you lease your vehicle, bring it to Edmore Sawgrass Buick GMC, your lease return headquarters. It's all a part of being backed by Morse. Click Edmore Sawgrass Buick GMC.com, a proud partner of the Miami Dolphins.
And welcome back, everybody. It's Game Day Uncensored here, 560 WQAM. Tobin and Solana here with you. Dan Day producing this program. We'll have Adam Beasley stop by the program in about 10 minutes, and we will talk Week 9 Buffalo Bills with Bees and also get his thoughts on the upcoming trade deadline as the Dolphins have a decision to make on Tuesday about what they're going to do with their roster. And how much do you think, Solana, today dictates what they do? Like, do you think the Dolphins just go to full fire sale mode if the Miami Dolphins lose today to the Buffalo Bills? Or, you know, is there not that many moves for them to be made? There was a report today from Diana Rossini from The Athletic, and she says that teams have called the Miami Dolphins to check in on Calais Campbell. Calls have also been made to the Packers about Preston Smith, especially the need for pass rushers all around the league. But, you know, Calais obviously came here. He made it known that he was here to try and win a Super Bowl. And if the Dolphins go to 2-6 after that week, I mean, that's damn near impossible. So how much do you think this result today will dictate what the Dolphins do come up on Tuesday?
Yeah, I'm glad we're having this discussion right before Beasley comes on, because he had a very, very strong article or column in his website, Pro Football Network. And here's the title, Tobin. Stephen Ross should detonate the Miami Dolphins roster with a Week 9 loss to Buffalo. And he goes on to explain, like, there's a lot of guys, Calais Campbell being one of them, but Raheem Mostert, I mean, we can go down the list here of guys who would be very valuable for some teams that are looking to make some mid-season or late season acquisitions prior to the trade deadline. And if the Dolphins do lose this game, it's pretty evident, like, sorry, this team's not winning anything this year. This team needs to start planning for the future. And I don't know. I don't feel like Stephen Ross or Chris Grier or Mike McDaniel want to detonate this roster. Clearly, they like the roster that they put together. If they didn't, they wouldn't have paid all these guys in a season that seemed like the year to go get it done. But at some point, don't you kind of just have to throw in the chips and say, all right, like this isn't working. We have to start planning for the next phase, the next plan next year. So I don't know, what does today look like, Tobin? I guess is where I'm at, which is the Dolphins get just crushed today, just absolutely crushed. Then what are you doing if you're not planning for the future? But what does that mean, right? Like, you're just punting on the season. So I don't know. I don't know what to expect, truthfully.
I think the thing with, you have your building blocks that you obviously signed to long-term money, the Jalen Ramseys, the Tyreek Hills, the Jalen Waddles. Like, I don't see the idea of trading them realistic. I don't even know what the mechanisms are of that with their money. And they're cornerstones, even if the foundation is getting shook this year. That seems like something that, maybe is more made for the middle of, more made for the offseason. But you have the Jordan Poyers, you have the Calais Campbells. If this doesn't work out, what can you get them? Like, I don't know who the super valuable haul is for anybody, again, unless you can get somebody into some kind of a bidding war for Calais' services or something like that. But certainly, like, look, if they get railroaded today, even if they lose close, I mean, Solana, the record is what it is at a certain point. Like, you can't, if they don't win today, there's just the likelihood of them racking off wins is very, very unlikely. I don't care how much Tua wants to talk about 2021 and what they did a couple of years ago. You just get to a certain point where, hey, you're too banged up, you're too much in the hole. You'd then now be behind the Jets, who the Jets won this week against the Houston Texans. So you're having to climb over multiple teams. I just think it's a big ask. So, yeah, I do feel like in a way it does all come down to what their place is today. What the monster piece is out there that seems obvious the Dolphins could get a haul for. The only one that really comes to mind to me is Holland because he's not paid yet, Solana. I don't really know. I'm having a tough time thinking about the rest of the roster and thinking, like, who else could the Dolphins swing and be like, hey, this guy, unless like somebody lost their left tackle, and you could flip Armstead to somebody, and that's a desperate enough move. But yeah, they don't feel like it just feels like at that point, like, what are you keeping everybody around for to put lipstick on a pig and finish with an 8-9 record?
I just think this is a much deeper conversation, though, because and we just don't have time to really like dive into the entire conversation. Because Tobin, I mean, think about it this way. Okay, if the Dolphins do lose today, and you do sell some of these veterans, right? The Raheem Mosterts, the Teron Armsteads, the Calais Campbells, and even the Javon Hollands. I mean, why stop there? Because aren't you kind of admitting, like, hey, we paid all these guys, we paid these building blocks, we had these veterans that were going to help us get over the edge. We built this core to be great, and it didn't work. Don't you have to kind of reestablish your identity, reestablish what it is you're trying to build here? Clearly, it's going to be around Tua. They paid him, and they continue to say that they believe he can be healthy and on the field. Don't you have to have like a come-to moment and say, hey, what we built here, it's not good enough, and we have to build something else moving forward? And then, you get into the conversation of, should the guy who built this team be building your next team? So
That's a fair question.
It's a much deeper conversation.
Yeah, and that's a fair question because, like, even if they go and get a win, then are we like we're putting Chris Greer in charge of, like, hey, he wants to go make a swing, and you don't even know if he's going to be here?
And if you're and Tobin, quickly, if you are right, like they get crushed today. Now Chris Greer is the one in charge of getting back assets that he probably won't even be able to use. What's his incentive to go get the absolute best deal for the Miami Dolphins if he kind of knows the writing's on the wall that he won't even be able to use those assets moving forward, those picks moving forward? Like, it's a very convoluted situation.
Well, you just kind of lie to him and say his job is safe, so he makes the best trade possible.
Yeah. Well, if they're trading off all their best pieces, I think Chris Greer understands what the deal is moving forward.
We'll take a break. Adam Beasley from Pro Football Network. He joins us next.
Football
HD2, and always live on the free Odyssey app.
Brought to you by South Florida Lexus dealers and the Lexus RX, the luxury SUV for those who never want to lose their edge. Experience amazing at your Lexus dealer. Also sponsored by the free Odyssey app. Download it today to listen to us live or on demand. And by Edmore Sawgrass Chevrolet. Edmore Sawgrass Chevrolet is your lease return headquarters. Click EdmoreSawgrassChevrolet.com and see how you're backed by Morse when it comes to returning your lease. Ed Morse is a proud partner of the Miami Dolphins.
All right, and welcome back, everybody. It's Game Day Uncensored here, 560 WQAM, getting you ready for Week 9 of the NFL season. Miami Dolphins getting set for the Buffalo Bills, and it's that time of the show where we check in with our guy, Adam Beasley from Pro Football Network. You have to, I know you missed the road, Bees, but this can't be one of those that you miss because you don't have to go to Buffalo.
It's a challenge getting from anywhere outside of Orchard Park to Orchard Park on a game day. Don't know if you guys have been there. Obviously, Solana, I saw a picture in Buffalo before. It's brutal, man. Like 3 roads go in and out, and they're all it's like residential area, and you can get stuck in there, and you got idiots jumping through tables, and it's a bit tough to navigate. Okay, so covering the game from the Parkland Bureau was a good choice for me.
This we were talking a little bit before you came on about the trade deadline, because it does feel like if they lose today, the Dolphins lose today, and we already know what the track record is, this puppy feels over. You wrote about it a little bit this week, but what do you think are the levers next week once we get to Tuesday or talking over the weekend? Where do you think the Dolphins go from here with their roster should they drop to 2-6?
Yeah, if they go to 2-6, the season's over. Let's not kid ourselves. They're not coming back from 2-6. I know people like to, think back with nostalgia of 2021, I think it was, when they started 1-7 and finished 9-8. You go and look at the quarterbacks they faced that year during that stretch when they got hot, and they were all just brutal. And
Ian Book in there?
Yeah, exactly right. Not Sam Darnold. God, why did I say Sam Darnold? The Rams certainly have a much better quarterback next week than the Miami Dolphins had faced during that stretch. And you just look throughout the rest of their season, they've got real tough opponents that they still have to play. I don't foresee a huge run for them to make that kind of comeback. So 2-6, you stick a fork in them, they're done. So you think strategically, what's next? And, to me, you have an opportunity, and you can look in the mini blow it up, the maxi blow it up, or the stay the course. I think those are the 3 options. I heard you guys talking about maybe making a move to improve the team at the deadline. You look at their salary cap situation this year and next. And I just don't see that. So I think best case scenario, if you like this core, is they stick with it and they see it through in 2025. But if you're Steve Ross and you have a ton of money tied up with a lot of these guys, and you're wondering if, hey, maybe I can flip some of these bigger contracts for assets, for draft picks that'll help me down the road, I think that's appealing. So the question is, do they do it in a micro level, which would be Calais Campbell? Which would be maybe Teron Armstead, guys that are in the last year of a deal or pretty clearly not going to be on the roster next year. Do you maybe someone would give up a 3rd-round pick for Teron Armstead if they need a left tackle to get them through a run in November, December, and January? Calais Campbell, day 3 pick, I think, at the very least, for a guy who's been playing really well. So that's the micro level. The macro level is, oh my God, this experiment's not going to work. Let's detonate, right? Let's go and move Tyreek, and let's move Jalen Ramsey, and let's go move a lot of these guys that have big contracts, but also really could help a Super Bowl contending team. What could you get for a Tyreek? These conversations need to be had. I know the counter argument. I heard you guys talk about it. Well, what incentive does Chris Greer have to do this, right? I mean, why is he going to give forth 100% effort if he knows these picks are going to somebody else? And the answer is legacy, right? And next job, and what's next for him. If he feels like he's totally going to be gone, he's going to probably look for another job down the road. And if he's the last memory of him as a Miami Dolphins GM, again, I'm not saying he's getting fired. I'm just saying in this scenario, is him kind of sandbagging the Dolphins' chance to move off some of these guys. That's not going to reflect well on him. So I wrote on Sunday that if they lose this week, what they should do is that plan C, and which is just completely
detonate is the word you used. Yeah.
Detonate and fire sale and really go for broke. And if Chris Greer isn't willing to do it, go find somebody who is and tell him, like, do you want to get fired now or do you want to get fired in 3 months? Choice is yours.
I don't disagree with what you're saying, right? Like Greer's trying to prove, hey, I can still be a good quality GM, and if I have to trade pieces at the deadline, I can get the most back for those pieces, Bees. But my question more so is, would he want to? And obviously it would come from Stephen Ross, as you wrote in the article. I agree with you, but that to me would be Stephen Ross telling Chris Greer, hey, this rebuild that you handcrafted for 5 years, you got to hand select another head coach after the first one didn't work out. You put together this roster, and once again in year 3 with this core unable to get over the mountaintop and truthfully has regressed now going into year 3, it didn't work. So I'm commanding you to go get rid of these pieces. I'm commanding you to detonate the roster. And in my opinion, that would be Chris Greer having to have that come to, which would be, well, what I built didn't work. And now, I mean, today's Sunday, the deadline's Tuesday. Is it possible? I understand other teams are going to be looking to make acquisitions, and it's typical towards Tuesday, right before the deadline, players are being moved. But wouldn't that detonation to get the most out of these assets shouldn't have not be 2 days before the deadline or tomorrow, a day before the deadline? Like, aren't you kind of just hoping to get value there that close to the deadline? Because really, in my opinion, the teams with the most leverage are not the Dolphins. It's the teams that are trying to get those players now before the deadline.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how many teams are interested in the same player. Like Tyreek, for example, I think he would be a good fit in Houston, who's had wide receiver issues. I think he'd be a good fit in Tampa Bay, who's had wide receiver issues. Kansas City, maybe that ship has sailed because of the Hopkins deal, but like there will likely be, if you make Teron Armstead available, you look at his advanced stats and he's playing like a Pro Bowler. I mean, he's playing really, really good. If you make him available to a team, to multiple teams who need a left tackle, there's going to be a bidding war because he has a very palatable contract. There are a lot of things here the Dolphins have working in their favor. I just, to me, we've got to get past the names and think of them as assets. And I know it's a cold way to do it, but baseball does it. Basketball does it. These sports that they're, just because you made a decision 3 months ago, if the decision doesn't look great in retrospect, don't double down on it, right? See if you can move on from that decision. So, it's really, really fascinating to me. But to your point, do you think you should have gotten more leverage 2 weeks ago or whatever? Today is it. You can still squint and see a good outcome to this season if they win today, because it would be the type of statement win on the road against one of the 5 best teams in the National Football League that has eluded Mike McDaniel this entire time. So if the plan, and by the way, their defense is banged up, the Dolphins defense is banged up, it's all get out. If with all those scenarios to win in a place where you've lost every game since 2016, Tua has lost 7 of 8. Every time he plays the Bills, he seems to get hurt. I mean, if you can overcome all of that, then yeah, you can make a justification for keeping this thing together. I know it's prisoner of the moment, but it's the reality. I mean, it's just the reality of how every game is so massively significant. And that organization is inclined to be motivated to make this thing work, right? It's not like they're looking to blow this thing up. A lot of legacies are on the line, players, coaches, GMs, with the decisions they made with this roster. So they're going to give it every opportunity to work out. But a loss today, there's zero chance for this thing to work out. There's not. And maybe they make some moves and they come back next year, but they're still going to have a lot of the same issues next year they have this year. Maybe their quarterback doesn't get hurt, but regardless, it's not like to me, and you guys can tell me if I'm wrong, and I know I'm long-winded here, but here's the point. Do you think last year was their window, or do you think next year is their window? And to me, I feel like with this core, last year was kind of the window, right? It's obviously not this year because things went sideways.
It's hard to feel like they didn't botch their window last year. Like it was all set up for them. And
yeah, I mean, you win that Tennessee game, you hold on to a 2-touchdown lead with 4 minutes to go or whatever, and you're hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers in the wild card round of the playoffs, and things look completely different, even with the banged up, pass rush. So, yeah, to me, running this back a third, fourth time with a lot of these guys, I think it's throwing good money after bad. And I wouldn't be surprised if Steve Ross and people close to him not named Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel were like, hey, dude, maybe cut your losses.
So this game, this particular matchup, obviously we know the history. It's bad. They've completely owned the Miami Dolphins. Is there a path that you see watching Buffalo? Because I think everybody was under the impression, hey, Buffalo's kind of going to take a step back this year, and it looks anything. This looks like this might be the easiest run to a division title ever. So, like, what gives you hope that the Dolphins could get this done today?
Couple of things, and actually, crazy. I know I probably was drinking when I made this pick, but I picked the Dolphins to win this game. Like,
wow,
the PFN, board of experts or whatever. I was the only one of the 8 that picked the Dolphins. So, is that wishful thinking and, confirmation bias and all that?
That's
maybe
whiskey thinking.
Yeah, it could be whiskey thinking. Correct. Well played there, Tobin. Here's how, to me, the Dolphins win. The Bills are bad against the run. Like, they're 27th in yards per attempt against. Run the football, protect Tua in ways that you really haven't in a lot of these Bills games. So if you can shorten the game, run the football, be efficient, make the most of your red zone opportunities, you can kind of squint and see how it happens. Here's something else. The Bills are plus 11 in turnover margin. Josh Allen has been spectacularly good about holding on to the football. Is there some mean regression, right? I mean, time and time again, the Dolphins are the team that everything goes wrong for. Maybe at some point they're the team that things go right for. And I think there's been so much bad luck. And again, you can't quantify this, but there's just been so much bad luck. And let's be honest, which is still a pretty random game. Like there's a ton of variance in even NFL level. There's a lot of variance. Maybe some of that magic works there well. I know the betting public thinks I'm nuts, and believe me, I'm kind of trying to have to talk myself into this. But to me, it's just hard for me to see 2-6 means like death for the season, right? I mean, it's it. Like it's 2-6 and it's curtains, as we just talked about. I just don't think this thing is ready to end yet. And so that to me, it's not logical. And you look at every other number except, the Dolphins running game against the Bills run defense, and it looks brutal for the Dolphins. All the trends are terrible, and we can go through them if you want, but it's not great. Even still, I think that they're just due for something good to go their way. And they got their quarterback back. And look, Tua played really good last week. I don't think we've acknowledged this. Like, he didn't put up the numbers he has, but PFN's got an advanced stats for quarterbacks that it's a proprietary formula, and it takes into consideration things like how he acts in a clean pocket, how he acts under duress, how he acts on third down, all these things that go beyond just even QBR and passer rating and all that. And that was the best performance by Dolphins quarterback in a loss since at least 2019. So maybe, the offense figures it out. The defense is not going to stop the Bills, but maybe they force 2 or 3 turnovers just to make it, the playing field level, and they go win a game in the fourth quarter. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. I mean, the spread's only 6 points, guys. It's not like it's 16. Like 6-point underdogs win in the National Football League. It doesn't happen all the time, but it happens. So, again, this might be just me talking myself into it because I don't want to be dealing with the next 2.5 months just drudgery.
Because it's just misery of the rest of the season.
Yeah, completely. But I would not be surprised at all if they won for all the reasons I just said.
Yeah, Bees. I'm willing to do essentially what you're saying, Bees, if I may. Any given Sunday, right? Like things happen in the football in the National Football League. I mean, the Browns won last week against the Ravens. Like bleep happens. Like I'm with that. But I was having this conversation with Crowder because he was essentially saying what you're saying, which is run the football, move the chains, keep Tua upright, and just keep it close, and you have a chance. My thing is, Buffalo's better at that game than the Dolphins. Like we saw it. Josh Allen threw for 160 yards. He basically was sipping Gatorade on the sideline, putting his helmet on, coming out there, handing the ball off to James Cook, and like he didn't have to do it. He had 2 yards rushing in that week 2 game, and I realized, look, 2 interceptions, short field for Buffalo. Like I get it, but if the Dolphins do want to just pound the ball and move the chains and run it a million times, Buffalo's ready to play that game. Haven't we learned that the Dolphins cannot be a power team against other teams who actually can play that type of football? So my thought process was this just has to be Tua airing the mother bleeper out. Like go out there and I know it sounds crazy, Bees. I realize that, but in my estimation, the only way the Dolphins can win this game is make it a shootout and just put up more points than Buffalo, have as many offensive possessions as possible, even if it means you're giving up a lot of points, because we know that there's one thing the Dolphins are good at, and that is Tua getting the ball to his two best players, his two best targets, and putting up points. Am I crazy?
Still good at that?
I think so. I think so.
What they're good at is like backbreaking turnovers. That seems to be the
and if you look at the only time that they beat Josh Allen, like in the last decade, it feels like, was that weird 21-19 game. And so that to me, like they've tried to play the track meet with them. That game in Buffalo, that Tua game in Buffalo 2 years ago, he was lights out, and he played about as well as you could, and it still wasn't enough.
And they ran the ball well that game too. They ran the ball really well. Jeff Wilson and Mostert ran it really well in that game.
Yeah. So, I'm with you. I think that, that they can score some points in the Bills, even though the Bills defense is better than I think they get credit for. If you give Josh Allen 12, 13 drives, he's going to make you pay. He just is. And that really is what the reality is. If they try to go up and down the field with them, you're going to give the ball a dozen times to Josh Allen. And that to me is scary.
What'd you make of Snippy Tua this week?
It's been coming, right? I mean, it started with concussion talk, and it's never a great thing to call your fan base lazy and fat and all that. I mean, he didn't use those words, but that was kind of the visual that's sitting on the couch eating your chips. I mean, I do that all the time, and I'm not an athlete, so yeah, I get it. But listen, I give him some grace, man, as much as he's been through, and as much like there is nobody that rides harder for this franchise and for this fan base than Tua. Like the dude's, we don't know if he's doing irreparable damage to his brain by continuing to play. And thankfully, the experts say he's not, but we won't know for sure for 30, 40 years or whatever. I give him the benefit of the doubt. And look, for me as a writer, I love guys popping off because, it's like it gives us an excuse to stir the pot a little bit. But what about you? Do you guys think it was too much?
I just thought it was I think that it's been an interesting superpower that he's been showing off recently where he'll go back at his haters. I think this was one of those, like, he probably misfired and didn't, like, he usually does handle things PR wise pretty well. And I understood the frustration with the concussion thing for sure. This to me, like, if he would have just ended the answer right before the chips thing, fine. Even as ridiculous as it is to call yourself a shortstop with, a gazillion fumbles. But it was one of those things where I was just like, you let it get to you a little bit too much. It was just a misstep for me. That's all.
Because he's never done that. Like he's never been the guy to call out the fan base. He's never been the guy to be like, I can do this, you can't. And for me to do it on the back of him fumbling a snap that he should have caught was weird. Like, had that not happened and he wants to take some shots, he played a great game, fine. But, like, he made a mistake. Own it.
Yeah, and again, I think he did own the under center fumble. I think he 100% thinks it was Brewer's fault. So, honestly,
that's the other thing is, like, okay, I get it. You never want to be the guy to call out your teammate. Then just say, we messed it up. Like, he did the under center. You could do that for the previous thing. I don't know why all of a sudden the fans drew your ire when it's clearly you think it's your center's fault. Just say, we blew it. Bye-bye.
And also, like, if you would poll fans, the number of things they're pissed off about right now, that's probably pretty low. Okay. I mean, McDaniel, Greer, the defense giving up two scored leads in the last 2 weeks, all these other things. I mean, Tua played pretty good. And he gets the benefit of the doubt, from this fan base, not nationally. And so maybe he was conflating the two, but he does get a lot of leeway from this fan base. So it was odd because it was bad of character.
It's why, you say that, Bees, where you're like, nobody's done more or committed more to this franchise than Tua. I'm with you 100%. I'm not taking it away from him, but I mean, this fan base, for the most part, I don't consider Twitter or X people who are just ripping Tua constantly like the true representation. Go to that stadium. There's more Uno jerseys than anything. Mm-hmm. And when he slid, I haven't heard that stadium that loud through the TV in years. Honestly, like this fan base loves Tua Tagovailoa. They love a quarterback who's almost never available or who's rarely available. Like they've embraced him as well through the thick and thin. So, like, to me, to call them out was weird because man, there'd be a lot of fan bases who would just be done with their quarterback who's constantly having these types of injuries.
Yeah, and you got to wonder what the long term. I mean, he plays well today. No one's going to remember that, obviously, but you got to wonder what the long term outlook is with him with this franchise. And that's, to me, is he probably feels like so much is up in the air. I mean, he clearly wants Mike McDaniel to be the head coach for as long as humanly possible. Like, there is not a single other soul on the planet he wants to play for nearly as much as Mike. And maybe he feels that slipping away a little bit and, things beyond his control. And that's probably what it is. Like, this season, 2-5 has not been Tua's fault at all. If you want to say it was his fault for getting hurt and running, okay, I get it. But running backs take the hit he took 20 times a game and they don't get concussed. Okay. So if this thing really goes sideways, there's a long list of people that you blame before Tua. And I don't know, Chris Greer for not getting a competent backup quarterback, right? I mean, that to me, if you know your quarterback is injury prone, you go into that season with that plan, you kind of get what you deserve. But maybe he just kind of feels like this is all spiraling beyond my control when Brewer botched a snap and I'm taking heat for it because I didn't make the perfect play. And he's just, he's kind of fed up. And it could be it, but it's wild how much could be on the line over not just the next 3 months, but the next 3 hours. I mean, it really could be a franchise-defining game today.
Well, to Chris Greer's credit, at least he didn't laugh at your guys' concern about the QB, only the offensive line.
Hey, wait a minute. That old line's not playing too shabby, guys. All right. It's not playing too shabby. You look at their pass block win rate, it's in the top, I think, 10, 15 in the National Football League. They're averaging 4.5 yards, 5 yards a carry the last 3 weeks. Let's give them a little bit of leeway. Now they're going to get manhandled today, probably in the trenches, but
like AJ Panessa and Ed Oliver, they're all going to just kill everybody. Von Miller's coming back. You know what's going to happen, dude.
Yeah,
we've seen.
But I'm going to get some flowers to him now while I can, because I probably won't be able to at 4:00.
Go follow Adam Beasley's work, Pro Football Network at Adam H. Beasley on social media. Appreciate the time, man.
All right, guys.
All right, we'll take a break. We will get into Mike McDaniel. He addressed Stephen Ross and some of his comments. Or apparently had a meeting with him after the game, so we will get into what the Dolphins coach had to say about his boss and where the Dolphins are at right now when Gameday Uncensored rolls on after this.
Text WQAM on the Kendall
The Dolphins are in Buffalo today for the victory. And believe me, it's been tough for the Finns to get any wins over the Bills. Tua's reaction to the question about what the Dolphins need to do was short and terse.
We got to beat them. They're good, and it's like the same thing over and over. You got to beat them.
Mike McDaniel was more descriptive and remains confident about his team.
I believe we have the right guys to get that fixed, and so we'll press forward with no other thought. But that's to be proud of the game we put out there and understand what it takes for this team to win against any opponent. The biggest opponent that we have to overcome is ourselves, really.
But is confidence enough? Well, we're going to find out shortly. Time to work out our game plan on Game Day Uncensored, the pregame show for real Miami football fans. Tobin and Solana with Omar and Beasley on AM 560 Sports, WQAM, FM 99.9 HD2, and always live on the free Odyssey app.
Brought to you by South Florida Lexus dealers and the Lexus RX, the luxury SUV for those who never want to lose their edge. Experience amazing at your Lexus dealer. Also sponsored by the free Odyssey app. Download it today to listen to us live or on demand. And by Edmore Sawgrass Buick GMC. No matter where you lease your vehicle, bring it to Edmore Sawgrass Buick GMC, your lease return headquarters. It's all a part of being backed by Morse. Click EdmoreSawgrassBuickGMC.com, a proud partner of the Miami Dolphins.
And welcome back, everybody. It is Game Day Uncensored here. 560 WQAM. Miami Dolphins getting set for the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo. Currently sunny, 49 degrees in Buffalo, Solana. It's supposed to be a little bit warmer by the time we get to kickoff in a couple of hours, like around 55, 56.
Does that count as a cold weather game? Are we still doing that with the Dolphins?
It is for Tua. I mean, it is for Tua. Like that's pretty brisk. That's pretty brisk for Tua. You remember?
He was in Maryland, wasn't he? Throwing passes to.
He said it snowed. He was there with his boy Talia, his brother. Right. Trying to get right. How is he doing, by the way? He was still with the Hamilton Tiger Cats. I think he threw some touchdowns.
He was in the CFL. I stopped. Wasn't the Grey Cup. When does that happen? I forgot.
I don't know. Still maintain the Dolphins should have signed him instead of Skylar Thompson.
I mean, couldn't have been much worse.
Couldn't have been much worse. Exactly, dude. That was my whole point. Listen, it's even Zoran Dragic put up a 30-piece one time. It happens, dude. It happens with these brothers. They catch lightning in a bottle. So we are getting set for this Week 9 matchup, and it was interesting, Solana. I'll play a couple of sound bites here from our favorite long-winded coach as Mike McDaniel, he met with Stephen Ross after the loss to the Arizona Cardinals. Stephen Ross, I'm sure, cannot be pleased with how things are. He had said coming into the year that he thought that the team healthy was a Super Bowl contender. We don't hear much from Stephen Ross anymore, which I think is to his benefit because he usually sticks his foot in his mouth.
Yeah.
The only time that we have heard from him this year, he was professing how this team should be a Super Bowl contender. But I understood that at least from him. He had spent a lot of money on the team. They had won 11 games the year before. So I didn't even think that was an outlandish thing for an owner to say. He was not doing the Jerry Jones where he was all in but wasn't all in. He truly was all in with his wallet. So
you want that, by the way. But Tobin, don't we want that? Like, I remember you and I discussing it. We didn't have any issues with him saying that. Like, he wants his team to win the Super Bowl. Yeah, I
haven't had any issues with him saying it. I think there's been much more egregious things that he has said in the past, but he doesn't talk as much anymore by design. But Stephen Ross met apparently with Mike McDaniel, and here's Mike McDaniel. This is him saying that Mr. Ross always supportive after games. Here's Mike McDaniel.
He tries to do everything in his power to facilitate success. So he's disappointed, obviously, when we don't have it. And then, we just communicate about the factualities that are really that I know without looking at the tape. And, he was, making sure that he's very consistent, making sure that he knows that tough times don't last, tough people do. So it was good to see him after the game, but I struggle with all parties involved after losses. just trying to lead by example. And no loss feels like it doesn't start with me.
If tough times don't last, when does this tough time end? Because 24 years feels like it's lasting a long time, Solana. I know he's not responsible for all of them, Mike McDaniel, but it feels like tough times have been going on for a while.
Yeah, it's what's he supposed to say though? Like, I'm here for the McDaniel criticism, but what's he supposed to say? Like, he's just trying to find the right way to say, yeah, this sucks. I mean, and there's no other way to put it. Like, this sucks, Tobin, for him to have to respond to the owner. Like, it sucks for everybody.
His message to me was, get me a Jalen Waddle touchdown or you're fired. I haven't gotten a Waddle in nearly a calendar year.
I'm trying to waddle, McDaniel. Just get me the Waddle, and I'll give you an extra year. One Waddle this year, please.
Oh man, here's a little bit more of Mike on Stephen Ross's message to him.
He's like every fan and coach. My knee jerk is to apologize for the result, regardless of how the game and my position within it go. And he's very he knows how the people that he's hired that he really believes in, and so he's very supportive. And that was very similar to what last night was. I think he's also supremely competitive, so he doesn't like to lose, but he's kind of we're definitely aligned in that it's the process and evaluating that.
There you go. Mike McDaniel earlier in the week. It is interesting though. Like, do you feel Stephen Ross? He's such an interesting owner when it comes to putting people on the hot seat, because it does feel like whenever you think something obvious is going to happen, he goes usually the other way. Like, he'll give Joe Philbin a random extension. He will, he won't fire the coach. He'll fire the GM. He'll go and hunt Jim Harbaugh in a plane. I don't really – people can say, oh, it's obvious Chris Grier is going to get fired if it continues this path and Mike McDaniel. I don't know that to be the case, Lana. I genuinely don't know, because Stephen Ross could also say to himself, like, hey, nobody else interviewed this guy. I gave it a shot. I'm going in another direction. I'm going to go try and hunt the whale of Bill Belichick. I'm going to, instead of going and giving first-year head coach, what he typically does, I mean, he's always hired a first-year head coach, is, maybe he goes established, because that was supposed to be the plan before Mike McDaniel. I'm not saying it would have worked out better or worse, but like, we all are forgetting this guy got caught tampering trying to get Sean Payton. So I don't know what he's going to do if this continues. I can't imagine we come out of this and everybody keeps their jobs. Whether you want to say, hey, continuity is the best thing or not, Dolphins had some bad luck this year. Sure, but he is the billionaire, and we see Jerry Jones do these types of things. We see Woody Johnson do crazy things. Like, am I to expect Stephen Ross doesn't, just because he's not in front of a microphone as much anymore?
So, okay, you and I differ on the Chris Grier thing, because the way I look at it, Chris Grier had an opportunity to rebuild this franchise. He got the tank, even though they don't want to admit that they were tanking. He got the quarterback that they wanted, Tua, even though they didn't have the number one overall pick. Then it didn't go right with the first head coach. You got to pick another head coach. I mean, we're in year, 6 after that rebuild? Yeah, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. I mean, we're in year 6, and Stephen Ross is going to sit there and say, okay, 6 years after a rebuild, not one playoff win. Look at the amount of organizations, the Texans, the Commanders of all teams, who had the worst owner ever, maybe.
I know.
Like, and
Jay
they've all
Daniels
been
is
able.
really fun.
They've all been able to at least put together a team that looks like they can compete. And the Dolphins, they had that small window last year where they looked like they can compete, and it was the same thing over and over. So I think you and I differ. I don't see how Stephen Ross could genuinely sit down in a meeting with Chris Grier at the end of the year, if this season ends the way we all kind of expect it to, starting with today, and ask him, okay, what did you do to make this team better? And actually take Chris Grier's word for it. Like, he would be crazy. But it goes back to what we were discussing with Bees, and prior to that, okay, they're going to tank the roster, or they're going to detonate the roster, as Beasley put it. You talk about going out and getting an established head coach, right? A Belichick, just for the name's sake.
Right, just for the name. Let's just throw it out there.
Well, if you're detonating the roster, you think a Belichick wants to come here for a rebuild? No, right? Like, they want to take over at least a roster that feels like it has the pieces to be close. So that's why I think they're just in a place here in limbo where, like, okay, you think you're close, so you keep this core intact and you go get another head coach or another GM who you think can take you over the top. Well, are they actually close? Or you detonate the roster, you're committing yourself to another rebuild, and we know Stephen Ross, he doesn't want to do that. He wants to win, and that would be at least another 2 to 3 year process. So you're right in the sense where we don't know what he's going to do. He has all the money in the world. We don't know what he's going to do. But I can't imagine that he's looking at Chris Grier to lead the next phase of whatever it is this team is.
Yeah, that's totally fair. I think the thing that you got to give Grier, I don't even know if credit's the right word, but like we have to keep in mind with Chris Grier is the dude's been here for 25 years. You know, he's been in the organization forever. Yes, he's been head of the helm for 6, 7 of those. He's been the dude. But when you've been in an organization that long and have been alongside here, you predate even Stephen Ross being here. Hard for me to say like it's a guarantee if they screw this up, he's gone. I don't know.
But off the back of the comments of Stephen Ross, where he's talking about a Super Bowl or bust, it seemed like you're going to keep the guy who couldn't even get you into the playoffs again. Like that's the only thing.
Agreed.
If we were having this conversation last year, I probably would have agreed with you. But we're having the conversation this year where Stephen Ross is on record saying Super Bowl. Yep. And they seem farther away from that than they were 3 years ago with Brian Flores, even when they missed the playoffs. They feel farther away from it today than they did then. So, like, that's the only time I genuinely believe we could be looking at a massive change in the dynamic of this front office because of where Stephen Ross's head was at, where his expectations were at, where he set the bar himself.
Yeah, as Beasley said, I think he's right where he says, like, this could all change in the matter of 3 hours. If they are able to pull out this victory some way, somehow against the Buffalo Bills, then at least it delays, maybe what is the inevitable, but it goes a long way. Like, you're going to feel a lot more confident. If they lose, though, yeah, it's going to be tough to not feel like, all right, where do we go? What is the out route from here? So
to be fair, Tobin, really quickly, to be fair, the Dolphins' schedule down the stretch of the season isn't as tough now, knowing what the NFL looks like and what these teams' records are.
Who are they going to beat, dude? Who are they going to beat?
I'm not telling you that I expect this team to make the playoffs. I'm just saying at the start of the season or before the season, we saw the schedule. And what did we all say about the schedule? Kind of easy early on, right? You had the Patriots, the Colts, the Titans, the Cardinals, like all beatable teams. Obviously, the Jaguars early on. And then we were looking and we're like, oh, no, you got to play Packers, Jets, Texans, Niners, Browns, Jets. Like the last 6 games, we're all like, well, they better have.
They're going to be underdogs in all of those games.
They will be, but the Jets don't look very good. The Texans right now aren't exactly powerhouses. We just saw it on Thursday Night Football because of the lack of talent in the receiver core. And CJ Stroud is basically throwing to you and me. The 49ers don't look like they're going back to the NFC title game. The Browns are a dumpster fire. And then you have the Jets again to end the season. I'm just saying, if the Dolphins can find a way to win today, if they can, the schedule is in their favor, is all I'm saying. I'm with you.
What?
I'm with you.
Nothing is in their favor. Nothing is in their favor. Nothing is in their favor. We did the same thing, dude. We did the same thing at the start of the schedule. We're like, oh, if Tua was going to get hurt, I did it too. And then guess what happened? They just threw up all over themselves. You cannot, in good faith, chalk up any wins for the Miami Dolphins against maybe the Carolina Panthers.
But that's not what I'm doing. That's not what I'm doing. I'm telling you. I'm telling you that before the season started, we all felt like the back end of the schedule was a gauntlet, that it was going to be impossible to go and win games there. And now you look at it, and it's not impossible. There are teams that the Dolphins can compete with at the back end of the schedule, even some of the teams that look unbeatable at the start of the season. And if they do win today, if they find a way to win today, I don't think they will, but if they find a way to win today, and the Dolphins decide that they're going to try to salvage the season, it's not impossible if they can beat Buffalo on the road that they can beat some of these teams as well. That's all I'm telling you. That's it. I'm not telling you they're going to win. I agree with you. They're going to be underdogs in every game outside of New England on November 24th, and maybe the Raiders at home in 2 weeks on the 17th. Yeah, like outside of those two games, maybe Jets at home, they'll be like 1-point favorites, but at the Texans, they're dogs. At the Packers on Thanksgiving, they're dogs. Versus the Niners, they're dogs. At the Browns, they're dogs. At the Jets, they're dogs. Like, I'm with you. I'm not telling you they're going to win those games. But if they can beat Buffalo on the road today, then we have to at least give them the benefit of the doubt that they can compete in those games, can't we?
I understand, but your only argument to me is the same thing you and Beasley are saying, which is what's going to happen today? Football's going to happen. But you can only have football happen so many times before football stops footballing.
But I don't feel good about this game. I'm not telling you they're going to win, but if they do, then we can say, hey, football happened. The Dolphins found a way. What if they find a way again?
Yeah, but I feel like the Dolphins could win this game and then just as easily get embarrassed on primetime in LA.
They can. Yeah,
that's how Jekyll and Hyde they are. It's that's the thing that it has their ability to come up with catastrophic mistakes this year is really breathtaking.
But so what are you saying then? Like the Dolphins, you honestly, like you want them to lose today?
I need to see them play a complete football game. I need to see them go in and play 60 minutes of competent football where they don't yak all over themselves and they can come out with a complete game. I don't want to go into a game where they needed a miraculous turnover, and I don't want a game where they needed a cockamamie end zone toe rule. I need, if you're a good team, and I understand that they're going in a little bit hampered on defense today. So I guess I'm looking more at the offensive side of it, and I don't have a lot of expectations because the track record is the track record, but I need to see Solana them play a full football game mistake free. And when I'm not talking penalties, I'm talking you cannot have the disastrous fumble or interception that gets the other team the momentum back. And that's the thing that I don't trust, is because we can sit here and look at the schedule all we want. They're so squirrely that you just never know when they're going to shoot themselves in the foot and blow the game.
It's crazy what's happened on this program today specifically, but really throughout the entire season. I was the guy at the beginning of the season saying this team's probably not making the playoffs. There's too many holes that they didn't fill, and I'm not confident that they're getting over the hump against Buffalo. And you're telling me they're going to the Super Bowl, and now all of a sudden, all I'm saying is, hey, if they can win today, maybe there's a chance they can salvage the season. I'm the guy feeding Dolphins propaganda all of a sudden, and you're the guy saying this season's done, so they have to play absolutely perfect, which we know they're incapable of. It's crazy the 180 on this show.
Yeah, but you don't believe in the team. Like you just believe football is going to football. And it's a fine argument. I mean, football's every week. But can you really expect them to do that? I don't know, man. We got to
I can't.
We got to take a break. We'll dive more into this just absolute domination that Buffalo has had over Miami and what Mike McDaniel has to say about this upcoming opponent. Back after this.
WQAM broadcasting live from the
Game Day Uncensored on AM 560 Sports, WQAM, FM 99.9 HD2, and always live on the free Odyssey app.
Brought to you by South Florida Lexus dealers and the Lexus RX, the luxury SUV for those who never want to lose their edge. Experience amazing at your Lexus dealer. Also sponsored by the free Odyssey app. Download it today to listen to us live or on demand. And by Edmore Sawgrass Cadillac. When it comes to returning your lease, Edmore's has your back. Edmore Sawgrass Cadillac is your lease return headquarters. Click EdmoreSawgrassCadillac.com. Edmore's is a proud partner of the Miami Dolphins.
And welcome back, everybody. It's Game Day Uncensored here, 560 WQAM. Tobin and Solana here with you, taking you up until the 1 o'clock kick from Buffalo. We will talk to Omar Kelly at the top of next hour. Let us get to our players to watch, which is brought to you by the Lexus RX, the luxury SUV for those who never want to lose their edge. Experience amazing at your Lexus dealer. And this is got to be Solana. We got to look at the cheetah in a case like this, because he has never cracked 100 yards in a Finch jersey against Buffalo. In fact, this is crazy. I just saw this on Twitter. This is from Alan Pupar of All Dolphins, of the All Dolphins podcast, and he said that Tyreek Hill has faced Buffalo 8 times in the regular season. With the Dolphins, he has exactly 0 catches for at least 25 yards in those 8 games. They have done a marvelous job of putting the locks and the clamps on Cheetah in these matchups.
And don't look up Tua's numbers either against Buffalo, especially on the road, because they are not good, Tobin.
Nope.
They are not good.
Nope, they certainly aren't. They certainly aren't. We do have one injury. We'll get all the inactives soon, but it has come out that is in the Dolphins' favor, and that is Amari Cooper is out and inactive for today's game. So the Dolphins do get a break. Buffalo just trading for him a couple of weeks ago from the Cleveland Browns. He is out with a wrist injury today. So the Dolphins do get a little bit of a break there as far as weapons are concerned that they don't have to face. Certainly with the Miami Dolphins thin on the defensive side of the football with all the injuries that they are incurring right now. Chop Robinson is, being thrown to the fire, thrown to the wolves here a little bit. You got Emmanuel Ogbah's dealing with a bicep. We know Jalen Phillips done. Doesn't really sound like Bradley Chubb is coming back anytime soon. No Zach Sealer today. So, I mean, the defense is up against it in this one, Solana.
Yeah, I mean, if you had to tell me, okay, what part of your defense do you need intact more than anything to go up against Josh Allen? I'd say, well, get my fat guys up front, right, on the defensive side. Get them healthy, because especially your 2 edge rushers, you want them to be active. You want to keep Josh Allen in the pocket. You want to force him to make mistakes. I think he's 14-1 touchdown to interception this year, Tobin. I should probably double check that. But
nope, you're right.
I like what Beasley said. I can't believe I sound like the Dolphins apologist today with you on the line. This is crazy. But a regression to the mean, it's it's not the dumbest argument. It's not the dumbest argument.
I would love that if the Dolphins had decent ability to take away the football. I would love that argument, because you would think, yeah, he is due for a clunker. He is due for a stinker, especially maybe with one of his star receivers out there, maybe forcing something. Like, that to me is the thing, is that the Dolphins, one of the critical things with this mess up, Solana, has been they don't turn the football over, and they always find a way to have a backbreaking turnover on their side. And so there's no evening out there of the swing plays. Like, the swing plays only go one way for Miami. That's kind of what has dimmed a lot of my optimism, is like, I would love to have that optimism, but it's like, well, what's the path? Where's the path here for the Miami Dolphins in a game like this? And if you're going to say, well, Josh Allen's going to Josh Allen, I'd be like, well, great, but like, who's going to force him to Josh Allen?
Yeah, and why does Josh Allen need a Josh Allen? They seem to have a pretty good strategy last time they played Miami, which was just give the ball to their running back, let him run right through the middle of the defense. And to make matters worse today, the Dolphins' defensive line is depleted. So why would Buffalo try to attempt to do anything else other than put the onus on the defensive line to go make stops? And right now, we're not confident that they can. And by the way, you're without Kader Kohou, you're without Javon Holland, you're without 2 DBs that matter against this Buffalo defense. If they do decide to put the ball in Josh Allen's hands, let him get out of the pocket where he becomes a magician and can just carve you up how he sees fit. It's a tough ask today, man. Like we've praised Anthony Weaver a lot this season, and it was tough to do so last Sunday because the defense just did not look good whatsoever. But I will also say today, he's got to go out there and earn his check, right? Like he's got to find a way. I'm not saying this game comes down to him, but hey, you were brought in. A lot of people are talking about you as maybe the next hot head coaching candidate or one of them after this season and what he's been able to do with less. Today's one of those games where go prove that you're what everybody is claiming you are to be in an impossible situation.
Right. It is a tough one for him. Mike McDaniel, this was him earlier in the week, talking about the Buffalo Bills and says they thrive on opponents just screwing up. Here's Mike McDaniel.
The Buffalo Bills, they thrive on other people's mistakes. They're literally challenging you to do right longer and take advantage of groups of players that are unable to execute down and down out. So you and they do a masterful job of putting it on the other team to earn the win.
There you go, Mike McDaniel. And that has not been, if you want to talk about one thing that almost sets the Dolphins up for disaster, it is like, hey, do good for as long as possible and don't screw up. And that is, I mean, if you want to talk about, other than Tua's injury, what has been the Dolphins' big Achilles heel, it is like elongated drives, some kind of mess up that's along the way. You just think you're chugging along, and there's either a critical penalty, a formation that's wrong, a turnover. That has been the way to get to the Dolphins. And so your hope is that this is one where they can play clean. Just play. We've seen it in elements, but can they keep drives clean together and continue to march down the field and put up points, not leave points on the field?
Can I at least be happy today, Tobin? Will you let me have this one?
Yep.
Grant Dubose and Robbie Chosen aren't going to have a combined 7 targets in this game. Can I at least be happy about that?
Yeah,
Are you okay giving me that one?
Yeah. Odell says he's still running fast, dude. He says he's running fast.
Oh, yeah. I'm expecting big things out of him. For sure.
We will give you the actives and inactives. They are out for the Miami Dolphins. Not too many surprises, but we will react and go into this Miami Dolphins-Bills game. Omar Kelly going to join us at the top of next hour as well. Back with more Game Day Uncensored after this.
Text WQAM on the
Uncensored. On AM 560 Sports, WQAM. FM 99.9 HD2, and always live on the free Odyssey app.
Brought to you by South Florida Lexus dealers and the Lexus RX, the luxury SUV for those who never want to lose their edge. Experience amazing at your Lexus dealer. Also sponsored by the free Odyssey app. Download it today to listen to us live or on demand. And by Edmore Sawgrass Buick GMC. No matter where you lease your vehicle, bring it to Edmore Sawgrass Buick GMC, your lease return headquarters. It's all a part of being backed by Morse. Click EdmoreSawgrassBuickGMC.com, a proud partner of the Miami Dolphins.
And welcome back, everybody. It is Game Day Uncensored here, 560 WQAM. Tobin here with you alongside Alejandro Solana. Dan Day producing for us here. You'll be able to hear Dan coming up on Game Day Uncensored post-game edition. Dolphins and Bills coming your way. 1 o'clock kickoff from Buffalo. And we have our actives, inactives here, which are brought to you by JM Lexus. In South Florida, when you think football, you think Miami Dolphins and Miami Hurricanes. But when you think Lexus, think JM Lexus. Well, right now, we've got it all for fall. Solana, you got the inactives up here for the Dolphins. Here's the official list for everybody out there. Cater Kohu, we knew that. He is out, inactive. Javon Holland, officially out. Jeff Wilson, who has been the inactive running back. They've been going more with Jalen Wright. Talk about him here in just a second. Storm Duck officially inactive. Andrew Meyer's been inactive all year. Undrafted offensive lineman. Julian Hill, he is out, and as is Zach Sealer. So the only one I think that was a question mark was maybe Storm Duck, but he is
right.
He is unavailable today, Solana. So the Dolphins very, very thin in the secondary. Ethan Bonner, of course, training camp wonder. We're gonna have to see more from him, and your boy Cam Smith, seeing if he could have a big bounce back performance. Although they do not have to go against Amari Cooper, which is the big loss for the Buffalo Bills today.
Hey, what about Jordan Poyer's return to Buffalo? I mean, can I have any confidence that he's going to go out there and, I don't know, maybe get a takeaway today? Like,
I don't feel like he's. I mean, again, I'm not like a savant on secondary play. I don't feel like he's made that much of an impact this year, other than ruining Jalen Phillips' season. So, and getting his hand stuck in somebody's face, man. Those are the Poyer plays that stick out to me. I don't think Dan Day, do you recall a Jordan Poyer play? Are you missing one? Am I missing something? I remember
he broke up a pass last week.
Broke up a pass last week.
Right,
he did have that. He did have a PBU. All right, there you go.
Let's go.
There we go, baby. It's the start to something. It's the absolute start to something there. So
thanks, Buffalo.
I don't feel like there's been a big thing here. There is, speaking of returns to Buffalo. Did you see this? This guy, I remember this early in the season, but there's a podcast, the Dive Bar Podcast. I've been a guest on there. Shout out to those guys, the Dive Bar Podcast. They had Jonnu Smith on in the summertime, and he said he took a lot of shots at Buffalo, which I'm all for. Yeah. But Adam Schefter, who, has 11 million followers, felt the need to tweet this out. And look, I'm happy the boys got some publicity. I don't necessarily need Adam Schefter throwing out bulletin board material from August, but he did. And he tweeted out this morning, this past summer, Dolphins tight end Jonnu Smith appeared on the Dive Bar Podcast and called Buffalo, quote, the worst place you can be in the world. Smith went on to add, the Buffalo Wings ain't even good. They ain't even good. I'm throwing all types of shots at Buffalo. Smith gets to play in front of the Buffalo fans today. Thanks, Adam. Appreciate it. Really just, what is that? What does he need to say that for? Was he just like, you know what needs extra fuel on the fire? Jonnu Smith taking shots at the Buffalo Bills and just the city in Buffalo in general, which, by the way, I just want to make a point. He's not lying. I mean, I've never been there, but you have said, Solana, a hellhole. But man, he just had to stir the hornet's nest with that one, old Shefty.
What bothers me most about that, Tobin, is that Shefty literally had that tweet saved. Like he read those comments back in whenever, August, July, and he's like, oh, this will be good to tweet out the day before they play Buffalo. And here we are. It was good. Buffalo fans are living in the comments. Here's the thing. I have family in Rochester, New York. It's like 45 minutes away from Buffalo. It's like me living in Miami, you living in Broward or whatever, right? It's the same thing. And he's not wrong. Okay, Rochester's cool. Buffalo's a hellhole. It just is. Period. But you know what? More importantly, he's not wrong about the wings. I went to Anchor Bar, all right, multiple times. I went to, everybody go, no, Anchor Bar, no, go to Duff's. Hey, I bid the Duff's also, okay? There's nothing special about your stupid wings, okay, Buffalo? There's just not. They're mid, and everybody loves to talk about the wings up there. They're no good, Tobin. They're not. So he wasn't wrong. The problem is the Dolphins are 2-5, and the last time they played Buffalo, Tua literally had to be taken off the field again, and this probably is not going to look good for my guy, Jonnu Smith. Pause up, but maybe have a above 500 record before you're taking shots at daddy.
So that is thanks. And now that's going to be on the national broadcast, which we do get Kevin Harlan today, which is great. Love a Kevin Harlan game. I don't know if we're worthy of a Kevin Harlan game, but we do get Kevin Harlan, and Kevin Harlan with Tua is magic. That there is something there. It honestly is as good a description or as good a reason as they give anybody. Is we got Harlan, we got Tua. Usually that leads to magic.
Yeah,
that's usually what happens.
Hey, Tobin, really quickly, should we feel any sort of way about Jeff Wilson Jr. being inactive again while Chris Brooks is making plays in Green Bay? Like, do we actually care that we don't have Chris Brooks anymore, or is this?
I didn't even know Chris Brooks was making plays in Green Bay.
Yeah, I mean, he's not lighting up the world, but there was a little highlight package making the rounds last Sunday where, like, he had some good blocks, he caught a pass, he had some decent runs.
It's tough to get mad about. If there's anything not to get mad about on this team, it's the running backs. Like people are calling for more Jalen Wright, and it's hard to argue. I mean, he's been tremendous. So look, we knew that battle going into this year was going to be a tough one. Remember, he was hurt at the end of camp, and so they went with old reliable Jeff Wilson. And God, memory serves me, didn't Jeff Wilson have a couple of big runs in the final drive against Jacksonville?
Well,
I feel like
he was playing. He was literally playing at the end of the preseason as well. And then he was in there against Jacksonville. But I'm with you, by the way. Like, I'm not bringing this up to slam Chris Grier over this. I mean, I just think it's one of these things the fan base sees, and they're like, "Oh, how do we let him go?" And it's like, bro. He's not playing ahead of Mostert when healthy. He's not playing ahead of Achane or Jalen Wright when healthy. So this really isn't a big deal.
I would be much more upset if I saw, like, I don't even know what example to give, but if I saw a receiver that they let go was balling out, that would have upset me a lot more than the running backs. The running backs have been good. I mean, so much so that we probably should get more of Jalen Wright. I understand why Jeff Wilson is still on the team, even though he's been active for like the last 4 weeks. He's a Mike McDaniel guy, and Chris Brooks, Chris Brooks looked incredible. If he didn't get hurt at the end of preseason, he probably would have been out Jeff Wilson. Remember, he had that incredible long run, I think, in the finale.
Yeah.
Dude runs angry. I think we all liked Chris Brooks. It was nothing against him, but you did have decisions to make because you clearly had your two starters and then Jalen Wright, and Jalen Wright has looked and Jalen Wright and Dolphin Kane does point out a bigger egregious miss was Andrew Van Ginkel, which he's 100% right.
Right.
He's 100% right.
Yeah,
but
that one stings a lot more than Chris Brooks for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. But this is going to be one of those where you mentioned Anthony Weaver last segment, and he's almost going to have to pull off some kind of Fangs miracle where they're going to look like a team that can stay in front of in Buffalo for any amount of time, and then it's upon the Dolphins to pounce. Can they make something happen out of that? That's the real question of it, because man, this team's just had their number every which way that they've gone there. And you mentioned Tua with the injuries. It is crazy because he's had the concussion this past year. He had pretty much the undiagnosed concussion that happened in the one game the Dolphins have won recently against Buffalo, where Milano shoves him and he wasn't concussed. They officially called it a back injury, which led to the entire scandal in the first place. And then, of course, he had the really bad one where AJ Epinesa speared him and broke his ribs. Yeah. Thank you, Jesse Davis, for that one. So, yeah, he does have a really rough track record against the Bills.
Watch out with any...
Those all happen at home, though.
They did. Watch out with any Jesse Davis slander, because our our next guest coming up at the top of the hour happens to be a Jesse Davis apologist and Omar Kelly. So I'm just saying,
told him I
watch
think
out.
he stinks.
I know. I'm
I've
just
told
saying,
him he
watch
thinks
out.
he stinks. He knows who I think stinks. It's nothing. I don't have to hide anything from Omar. He knows who I think. I mean, like, dude, it's a ridiculous thing. They paid $3 million for a tackle. Like, do you know what that? You know, I mean, it's like going out there and being like, hey, one of the premier positions, we really got a bargain basement deal on that one. It's like, great. That's solid team building right there.
So the actual the injury where Milano just rocks Tua, that one I think back to, aside from Jesse Davis, and I say, all right, the Dolphins, probably didn't have the best chance to win that game, right? Like it wasn't happening. But the other one, Tobin, week 3, 2 years ago, right? That was the game right before the Thursday night football game, right? That was the
Milano shove, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like, I mean, Tua balled in that game, man.
I know he did.
He
I
did.
know.
Remember, he had that dart to Waddle right before halftime, right over the middle of the field. Like, I mean, there are instances where this team gives you hope against Buffalo, even when things go wrong with Tua, right?
I'd really like to see Jalen Waddle get going. It's been a very, very pedestrian slow start. That drop last week. I don't know. I just feel like this is one of those where, they definitely, the Bills are definitely going to do everything they can to take away Tyreek Hill, because that's what they've had success doing, which means it feels like a lot more pressure is going to go onto 17. And he's had some pretty decent games against Buffalo. I think he's had a pair of games going over the century mark against them.
Yeah.
So I feel like those opportunities are going to be there for him today. It's just a matter of, can he get back into the end zone? I miss the Waddle, dude. I miss it.
It is a crazy thing for me to say, right? Where I'm going, man, I wish River Craycraft was healthy for this game. But damn it, I wish River Craycraft was healthy for this game. Because, look, Waddle just hasn't been there this season for whatever reason, Tobin. I don't know why, but he just hasn't been there consistently, even when Tua's there, right? And then, like, we know what to expect from Tyreek, but you read the numbers a couple segments ago. Tyreek versus Buffalo, in Buffalo, whatever you want to put.
Right.
Like, the deep threat just hasn't been available. So I wish there was that third option where you're saying, hey, I feel comfortable with Tua getting the ball to this guy. And River Craycraft is that guy, in my opinion. Like, there's a track record there. Clearly, Odell Beckham Jr. is not that guy. And I guess, like, we're happy with Jonnu Smith right now, aside from his comments.
He's been decent. No, like, you definitely have to give credit to him coming on over the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
That's definitely been one of the positives. The running game, they've found a run game. The third receiver, like, if I'm Odell Beckham and I make the comments that I made this week about I'm running this fast and it's the most selfless position, and great. Okay. Can you show it on the field? Can we, is he going to get the trust of the coaches and the quarterback to make that happen? We'll have to see. But I go into this game almost expecting, other than having Kevin Harlan magic, I go into this game thinking, all right, they're going to do everything in their power to take away Cheetah. Other than making him like a possession receiver. Who's going to be able to be there then to make the big play? And it's impossible not to look at Jalen Waddle and say, hey, this is on you, dude. You're not a 2, you're a 1A. This is the game. You got to go prove it.
You got paid like a 1A, right? Like, go play in the most important game of the season. Go play like a 1A. Tobin, if the Dolphins approach this game the way I expect them to, which is try to make it attract me. And again, I could be wrong about that, right? Like, Bees told me I'm crazy for thinking it. I just think the Dolphins should be targeting 35 plus points in order to win this game. Then Odell Beckham and Jonnu and Jalen Waddle are all going to have to make plays at some point. I'm not saying Odell Beckham's going to have 100 yards, but I'm just saying, like, at some point the ball's going to get to them because Tua's throwing 35 to 40 times in this game. And the distribution of the passes is going to get to them at some point. They have to make plays, period.
We will take a break here on Game Day Uncensored. Omar Kelly, Miami Dolphins columnist from the Miami Herald. He will join us next.
Football coverage
The Dolphins are in Buffalo today for the victory. And believe me, it's been tough for the Finns to get any wins over the Bills. Tua's reaction to the question about what the Dolphins need to do was short and terse.
We got to beat them. They're good, and it's like the same thing over and over. You got to beat them.
Mike McDaniel was more descriptive and remains confident about his team.
I believe we have the right guys to get that fixed, and so we'll press forward with no other thought. But that's to be proud of the game we put out there and understand what it takes for this team to win against any opponent. The biggest opponent that we have to overcome is ourselves, really.
But is confidence enough? Well, we're going to find out shortly. Time to work out our game plan on Gameday Uncensored. The pregame show for real Miami football fans. Tobin and Solana with Omar and Beasley on AM 560 Sports, WQAM. FM 99.9 HD2 and always live on the free Odyssey app.
Brought to you by South Florida Lexus dealers and the Lexus RX, the luxury SUV for those who never want to lose their edge. Experience amazing at your Lexus dealer. Also sponsored by the free Odyssey app. Download it today to listen to us live or on demand. And by Edmore Sawgrass Buick GMC. No matter where you leased your vehicle, bring it to Edmore Sawgrass Buick GMC, your lease return headquarters. It's all a part of being backed by Morse. Click EdmoreSawgrassBuickGMC.com, a proud partner of the Miami Dolphins.
And welcome back, everybody. It is Game Day Uncensored here, 560 WQAM. Take you guys up until the 1 o'clock kick from Buffalo, Miami Dolphins, and the Buffalo Bills. As lopsided a rivalry as one can get. Solana, let's go out to the guest line and let us talk to our guy, Miami Herald Dolphins columnist Omar Kelly, joining us there. Omar, good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you gentlemen doing?
Nervous because, it feels inevitable about what's about to happen just based on history. How are you feeling about this game?
This town is absolutely filled with Buffalo fans. Everywhere you see the colors, you see the logo. Obviously winning helps. You know what's so intimidating about this Bills series with the Miami Dolphins? You remember the 2 decades that we spent looking up at Tom Brady and the Patriots for that dynasty? Do you realize that you annually pretty much split that series every single year? And that's against a dynasty. Mm-hmm. But yet, when it comes to the Buffalo Bills, you just keep getting these noogies. You keep getting the wedgie. They just keep embarrassing you. And at some point, you have to get to the point where you realize that this is mostly mental. Now, how do you undo that? How do you undo going into a place where you know you're going to get your butt kicked?
Yeah, but Omar weren't I remember Jordan Poyer saying before the season started, hey, there is this narrative about the Dolphins out there that, that essentially they're a soft team and that they were going to go out and prove that they're no longer that team anymore. Well, it didn't look good week 2. Is there any reason to be confident that the Dolphins can go out there and dispel those narratives today?
Yeah, I think the best reason that you have is that you haven't seen the best of Tua yet. You haven't seen the best of this team. I know that the record looks quite disappointing, but I can tell you it wouldn't be this dismal if Tua was healthy for, that stretch of games that he was put out for the concussion. Certainly everybody should have been surprised by the Arizona loss. But if you really think about it, this team should at least be 500 right now heading into this matchup. Now, what hurts is that you got embarrassed the first time you played Buffalo. Well, that was easily to explain when you look at the fact that you had 3 turnovers, one on a tip ball, one on a wide receiver run the wrong route, and the other on a jail blitz from an injury backups all on your left side. And Tua is trying to throw the ball out of bounds, and it ended up in the cornerback's hands and a pick 6. But the offense did not look bad against Buffalo Bills. I know people don't realize this, but when Tua was in the game, they converted 8 of 11 third downs, which was pretty impressive. And the strength of Tua is his efficiency, his ability to continue staying on the field, and Now, what they have to do is they have to turn those opportunities where you get into the red zone into touchdowns. You can't settle for 3. And when you do that, you put pressure on the Buffalo Bills. And I think that there's a possibility that they can play that style and play that type of game today, primarily because they've had efficient running games. They've run for 150 yards for the last 3 weeks, which is something that's quite impressive, especially when you consider who this offensive line is.
I think you asked him this week, Omar. You asked too about like the idea that his injury passed against Buffalo too, because that's another thing. Is like he can't even seemingly stay healthy against this team. Like, and I don't know how that doesn't mentally warp you.
Well, he talked about how you can't think about it like that. You got to go out there and you got to play football. It's not like the Bills are intentionally trying to hurt him, even though, I've covered some teams that intentionally tried to hurt quarterbacks. No, it's just been a very unfortunate situation for the team. I think he's broken ribs. He's broken his thumb. He's suffered concussions against the Bills. To me, that comes down to the offensive line, and that's going to be what this game is going to be on. Can this offensive line open up running lanes and make things happen for Achane and Wright and Mostert? Can the Dolphins sustain rushing attack? Can have a sustained rushing attack that will help them own time of possession, help keep Josh Allen off the field? Can they convert red zone opportunities into touchdowns, which would put pressure on Josh Allen and make him be more aggressive as a passer? Because when he's at his best is when he's not dangerous Josh Allen. He's just, your regular Josh Allen who is a game manager. You have to force him to become dangerous Josh Allen. And that's what you make him make mistakes. And then clearly they have to protect Tua, which is something I don't think they've had that much of an issue with this season, primarily because Tua's throwing the ball so quickly. But wouldn't you love to see him have some time to work downfield and find his 2 speedy receivers?
Yeah, I mean, that's the idea because let's be honest, right now it seems like he only has one speedy receiver that's actually on the field. The other one, Omar, I mean, I don't know. Is Jalen Waddle still on this team? I don't know if there's too much proof of it. But I saw a couple hours ago you tweeted, I don't remember really exactly what the prop was, but it was like Devon Achane over 40 receiving
40
yards. And you said, okay, good prop bet. And then, you're saying we haven't seen the best of Tua yet. Is the idea here that the Dolphins are going to let Tua put up a ton of points today? Like, I want a balanced attack, as you're suggesting. Run the ball, move the chains, keep the offense on the field for Miami. But at some point, it's going to come down to, can Tua make the throws? Can he move the ball, throw touchdowns, and score in the red zone, right?
Absolutely. The reason I say that that's easy money on the prop bet is because the way the Buffalo Bills play defense is they're going to 2 safety high everything and keep everything underneath. So Achane is going to be the check down guy a bunch, probably 4 or 5 times a game. And Tua likes to get the ball out quickly, especially against a Bills team that has annually or traditionally gotten pressure on you with 4. So, that quick pass, the quick outlet to the back is going to be there. And then the way Achane plays and he's able to make people miss, I think he's going to have a big game. I think he had a productive game the first time he played the Buffalo Bills. That's just the way that they play their defense. They keep everything in front of them. They let the back be an outlet, and then the easy pass is there. But you're right. This season, to his career, has always been about stepping up in those big moments. And unfortunately, he has not done it on a consistent basis. He's done it. He has not done it on a consistent basis. And you hear it. You guys probably even say it. The Tua hasn't won a big game. Dolphins haven't won a big game. Every time they're in that big game, big moment, this team shrinks to the moment. And there's validity to that. But it comes down to, can you make those clutch throws that you need to make in the fourth quarter on third downs? The last time the Dolphins beat the Buffalo Bills, Tua did it. Then Josh Allen had an opportunity to respond, and he fell short. The question is, will Tua do it again? People have these selective narratives. They beat Dallas in a big game last year, that they can't do it. Well, they've done it. They just can't do it consistently. And, that's what separates the good teams from the great teams.
Well, let's just say history continues its trend, though, Omar, and they get trounced again by Buffalo, and Josh Allen hands them out juice boxes and orange slices for a good effort, like a good Papa would. what's the fallout, dude? Like, is Mike McDaniel then officially on the hot seat? Is Stephen Ross looking at Chris Greer? Like, if they aren't able to get over the hump against this team, and it very much looks unlikely, like any kind of miracle playoff run would be there from 2-6. What do you think is the fallout?
Well, I think no matter what happens this season, somebody will be offered as a sacrifice to the football gods. More than likely, that's going to be Chris Greer. Then what happens to the head coach is pretty much predicated on what Steve Ross tells the new GM. And I personally believe that Steve Ross will tell the new GM the same thing he's told the old GMs, that you're going to have to keep this head coach for a season, figure out what's here, what you like, what you don't like, and then you can do what you need to do. I think no matter what happens today, this franchise is headed towards a reset. And the reason I say that is because, the foundation is not strong here. And that's nothing on Mike McDaniel. And I personally believe that the best way to get the best out of Tua is to keep Mike McDaniel consistent. Now, if you want to move on from Tua, which I don't think anybody does in this organization, if we're not factoring in the concussions, then you're going to have to keep Mike McDaniel. Now, the question is, can you build a good team around Tua? And right now, I think the offensive line and the defensive line have to be rebuilt, and that's tough. The one thing I've always found troubling about this Dolphins team is that good teams build their team in the trenches out. This Dolphin team builds outside in, wide receivers, cornerbacks, and then they worry about the trenches. And I think that's a completely opposite and retarded philosophy. But, that's the way that Chris Greer decides to do things.
I think back, Omar, to the Miami Heat in 2017, I think it was, Tobin, where they went 11-31 to start the season. And then Deion Waiters and James Johnson, they led a 31-11 run the following year. And everybody kind of took that as Pat Riley paid them. He fell into the worst stretch of Heat basketball ever because he fell into the trap of 31-11 and what that team could potentially do. And eventually we found out that they couldn't do anything. Would winning today be a bad thing for the Dolphins from the standpoint of what you're saying? You're saying, hey, it's a reset no matter what. So shouldn't they just punt on the season, say, hey, this didn't work, and try to get assets back at the trade deadline since they're going to reset anyways?
No, you're not going to get any assets. You're not going to get any cap relief. There's nothing that you can really trade that's going to get a significant bounty. And let's be real about this. You're trading assets for draft picks. Who's going to be using those draft picks? Is it going to be Chris Greer? Because I doubt it. So why would I think that we have not seen the best of this team. What you've seen is a team that was playing with a practice squad quarterback for the majority of the season, whether it be Skylar Thompson or Tyler Huntley. That's the reality of it. That's the caliber of quarterback that you are playing with in an offense that's very, very complicated, one of the most complicated offenses to play. So then you are seeing a byproduct of a watered-down offense. Now, I think the defense held this team up, obviously, outside of last week. Now, the question is, how real are they? Because 2 weeks ago, we were talking about Anthony Weaver and how he was going to be basically becoming a head coach in a year because he had the number 5 defense. But, now we see that that's a little bit of fugazi, and it's, is it fool's goal? I don't know what we have from a defensive standpoint, but I can tell you what you do have from an offensive standpoint. You have a very efficient quarterback. You have an offensive line that's playing well. You have a physical, dominant rushing attack. Now, if this team can manage somehow to clean up the way that they play and clean up penalty-prone plays and clean up the bad snaps and clean up, the fumbles, maybe they give themselves a chance to get hot. Remember, in 2021, Tua led the Dolphins to winning 8 of 9 games in the final stretch of the season. Now, does that mean anything in terms of, them making a playoff run? I don't know. But I think what we need to know is we need to know what's here and what we have and what's buildable and what's consistent. Tua's never had a losing season in the NFL. And I'm very curious to see if no matter what you put around him, if he can continue that trend.
How frustrating is the idea, though, Omar? Like, they feel like in these games, they play good football, and then there's just some critical error, usually a turnover, that just makes it all unravel. And it just makes it feel like this matchup, they talked about this week with Buffalo. They make you play better longer. And that just feels like it's a recipe for disaster for Miami.
Yeah. The Dolphins are also they cleaned up the way that they played last year. Most of Mike McDaniel's tenure has been error prone and mistake filled and undisciplined play. But last year they were a pretty disciplined team when they were, pummeling what people will say is bad teams and winning against the inferior opponents. Well, I'll take a team that wins against inferior opponents because if you did that this season, you would have beat the Colts and you would have beat the Cardinals and, you would have taken care of business. And then you'd have this big matchup game and everybody would say the narrative, the Dolphins can't win a big game. I don't know who this team is. Do I think they're mentally soft? Yes, I do. But they have plenty of opportunities to prove that they aren't. And this is the best. This is the best opportunity right here because if you beat Buffalo, and you take down one of the top 5 teams in the NFL, it will send a warning shot to the rest of the league, and it will inject confidence into your bloodstream. And the question is, what do you do with that confidence? How well do you play? And I can tell you, I know for a fact that this team is better and more talented than they've shown. The question is, when will they show it?
Hey, Omar, I love you, right? But I got to bring this up. Omar. Last week,
go ahead.
You and Tobin kind of crushed me for accusing Jalen Ramsey of telling some whoppers about this Cam Smith. And look, Omar, I'm not an I told you so guy. I'm not. Okay, you know more about the Dolphins than I could ever wish to know. But I mean, I can you at least give me this one? Was I kind of right about this one?
Marvin Harrison was balling, bro. And Kyler Murray proved that he is no slouch. Like that. Think about that. Think about the touchdown pass that he caught over Jalen Ramsey. That was a perfectly placed ball. Great catch. I mean, think about the name, Marvin Harrison Jr. Like, I'm not a Cam Smith sucks guy. Certainly it wasn't horrible, but it wasn't great.
No, I'm not a Cam Smith sucks guy, though, Omar. That wasn't my point. I was just saying the idea that he's going to come out after not having played his entire rookie season and then being on the injured reserve list and come out and make impact plays was just ridiculous in my estimation. And I don't know. I mean, back of the end zone, he's just kind of meandering around while somebody's catching a touchdown in the back of the end zone. Clearly his assignment. Like, it wasn't a great debut by him is all I'm saying.
Yeah, no, it wasn't a great debut, but you do remember the Cater Kohu Buffalo Bills games, right?
Yeah, but that wasn't Cater's fault. Come on, that wasn't Cater's fault. That was our old defensive coordinator who was just too stubborn to allow Xavier Howard to go over there and shadow Stephon Diggs.
Yeah. Let that man get filleted with truffle butter. Like, damn, bro. It'll be without Amari Cooper playing today. It'll be interesting to see how, I think that Jalen Ramsey will again be in the nickel. I like that just because he's going to be blitzing Josh Allen. He's going to have an opportunity to get some. So he's probably had quarterbacks within his clutches probably about 5 times and hasn't been able to deliver it. So Jalen's going to have an opportunity to be more impactful. Not playing without Javon Holland, that definitely doesn't help. But Marcus May is fine, and I'm curious to see what Jordan Poyer can do. If he doesn't have a good game in Buffalo, we're done. He's toast. He looks like an old safety right now. And if he doesn't have a good game in Buffalo, I'm pretty sure that it's ready to pull the plug on that one.
Oh yeah, I mean, like, he's going to be known as the guy who took out Jalen Phillips. Like, that's what his Dolphins tenure is thus far. He better have a good game against Buffalo.
Yeah, this is if he can't get up for this game and can't deliver. Like, I would love to see Jordan Poyer blitzing Josh Allen. Let's bring the house at Josh Allen. Let's see what he can do. See how he responds to the pressure and the heat. You got to get a lead for that.
He's Omar Kelly. Go follow his work at the Miami Herald. Always appreciate him joining us each and every week on Gameday Uncensored. Thank you, Omar.
All right, guys.
There you go, Omar Kelly. Appreciate him stopping by. Speaking of action, Omar had some props out there. We'll give you some other props. Porpoise props coming on up as Gameday Uncensored returns after this.
WQAM broadcasting live from the Ed Moore Sog
Now let's get back to Game Day Uncensored on AM 560 Sports, WQAM, FM 99.9 HD2, and always live on the free Odyssey app.
Brought to you by South Florida Lexus dealers and the Lexus RX, the luxury SUV for those who never want to lose their edge. Experience amazing at your Lexus dealer. Also sponsored by the free Odyssey app. Download it today to listen to us live or on demand. And by Edmore Sawgrass Chevrolet. Edmore Sawgrass Chevrolet is your lease return headquarters. Click EdmoreSawgrassChevrolet.com and see how you're backed by Morse when it comes to returning your lease. Ed Morse is a proud partner of the Miami Dolphins.
And welcome back, everybody. It is Game Day Uncensored here, 560 WQAM. Streaming live on the Odyssey app, AUDACY, free in your app store. You guys can check us on out there. You guys can also listen to Game Day Uncensored post-game edition with Dan Day coming your way at 4 p.m. after Dolphins and Bills from Orchard Park. Orchard Park? What, who gives a rat's ass? It's hell up there. That gets going at 1 o'clock today. Miami Dolphins getting set to take on the Buffalo Bills. It is that time of the show where we dive into our Porpoise Props.
It's time for...
I don't know about you, but that looked like money.
Porpoise Props.
Hopefully you didn't jinx us.
Props.
All right, Solana. Here's what we got for today. Your Miami Dolphins taking on the Buffalo Bills. I need an answer, and I need it now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have my guy to go to, Julian Hill. He's not playing. So I don't know who to go to get a big fat number on when it comes to long shot touchdowns. I'm leaning, I guess, Jalen Wright. I mean, it's a little tasty at plus 800. If you want to get to the thousands, the plus 1,000, you got Malik Washington. Odell Beckham Jr. is now a plus 900. Durham Smythe is plus 1,200. I don't have any faith in that.
What about Alec Ingold at plus 900?
I suppose he could pop in there. I've lost a little bit of faith in him since week one. You know, he's had a bit of the drop skis. I don't know if there's a ton of faith in to go into Alec Ingold. I'm not sure. I feel like there's more of the likelihood Odell Beckham ends up in the end zone than there is Alec Ingold. Because
Alec Ingold has more receptions than Odell Beckham Jr. has targets this year. Like, I don't understand that at all. I'm not telling you Alec Ingold's a lock. Don't get me wrong, but I mean,
how could
you
they
have more
trust him?
faith in OBJ? He hasn't caught a pass yet, Tobin. What are you talking about?
It's crazy. It is crazy. But he was giving that speech this week. You would think like, hey, if Tua's really gonna trust him, like this is the week to do it.
But what speech? I mean, he gave us a speech 5 weeks ago, that like he's only playing football. Like he doesn't have to be here if he doesn't want to.
Why is he here? Why
Well,
is he here?
Here's my rationale on Alec Ingold. You go back to that Patriots game, right? The only good drive the Dolphins had, and I know Tua wasn't in the game. I realize that. The only good drive the Dolphins had was Alec Ingold leading the way. I know they get into the red zone. The obvious choice would be to give the ball to Raheem Mostert to go run it in. I know that works, but the Bills know that's coming. So you get a little like fullback dive action. That's my only thinking here.
What do you think about this on the Hard Rock app? And by the way, Porpoise Props, I should let you guys know, is sponsored by Hard Rock Bet. Hard Rock, roll with us. So on the Hard Rock app, 100 yards rushing for Devon Achane is plus 800. Pretty tasty to me. He's been balling. He's been looking good.
But with Mostert back, like the carries just aren't going to be there for him to get 100 yards. And Tobin, look, in a perfect world, the Dolphins run the ball for 250 plus yards today. They have the time of possession heavily in their favor, and they go win this football game. That's in a perfect world, right?
Yep.
I mean, you've been shaming me all day for suggesting the Dolphins have a chance in this one, even though I don't really feel like the Dolphins have a chance in this one.
Right.
At what point are the Dolphins going to have a 2-touchdown lead today in your mind where they're just going to be handing the ball off to Devon Achane and Raheem Mostert? Don't you feel like they're going to be down and Tua's going to have to throw the football?
Here's what I would say. The only thing that would divert me off of Devon Achane is that he's a mix of rushing and receiving. But one of his best games this season it was like the only bright spot against the Buffalo Bills. He went for damn near 200 yards in that game. Last week he was around 150 combined. He's balling, man. I mean, he's been playing really good, especially coming off of that brutal concussion that he had with the Guardian cap. He's been playing some good football, and I feel like the value's the 8-1 for him to cross the century mark. Someone's going to get some big stats today, I feel like, and I feel like he's the prime candidate. The only thing that worries me is it all just being straight up 100 yards rushing, because he hasn't had a 100-yard rushing game, but he's been like 2 yards shy of it.
I was going to say, I don't think he's had a 100-yard rushing game yet this season.
I know, but he had like 97 last week. It's like basically, if they would have had
it is. I'll give it to you. Yeah, you're right. It is.
What about, okay, so you were talking about Tua. So Tua did run last week. His over-under rushing is set at 5.5.
Mm-hmm.
Are you taking that? Are you taking that? It's not the greatest number in the world. It's minus 115. So maybe you throw it into a parlay or something like that. But do you like Tua going over 5.5 yards rushing?
So I kind of handicapped this perfect last week. I told you there's going to be a moment in the game where Tua is going to step up into the pocket. There's going to be space, and he's going to go right down the middle and pick up some yards, and the entire crowd's going to go crazy. And what happened, Tobin? The most hype I've heard that building in a long time came on Tua properly, getting down, nice little slide, right into second base, got right back up, crowd goes nuts. I think Tua feels like this is part of his arsenal. I think Tua still thinks he's nimble. I think he wants to prove a point, and he continues to want to prove a point. I think 5.5 today, no brainer. No brainer.
All right, I'll ride with you. I'll put it in the parlay. I'll throw it in there. I don't like it. I'm not going to, I guess I got to root for it now, but I don't like it. I didn't like it last week when I had to root for the prop.
Hey, you want to get crazy? I'm just throwing it out here, all right? You can get Tua 25 or more rush yards at plus 750, Tobin. Plus 750.
No. I can't.
One long run.
I can't in good faith do that.
You need one long run. That's it. One.
What about Tyreek Hill? I mean, that's plus 1750. A little sweep. He goes for 25 yards. That's pretty good action right there.
Yeah, where was that for the past 5 weeks, though?
I don't know.
We needed one sweep. That's it.
All right, that is our Porpoise Props. Again, the Porpoise Props brought to you by Hard Rock Bet. Hard Rock, roll with us. Week 9 of the NFL season, Solana. Here is our slate for today as we get ready for this 1 o'clock action. Any of these, which one of these games interests you the most? We got Cowboys, Falcons. Atlanta's a 3.5-point favorite. Bengals hosting the Raiders. Cincinnati is a 7.5-point favorite. You got Chargers at the Browns. Browns coming off that emotional win last week with Jameis Winston at quarterback. LA is a 2.5-point favorite. The worst game of the week. It's either between Patriots at Titans or Saints at Panthers. Jesus. Man. Those are any of these going to be on your side TV today? Any of these 1 o'clock games that you're going to be like Adam Schefter and meth stream it?
I mean, Commanders right now, Tobin, like, aren't they really fun? I know the Giants are dreadful.
They are pretty fun.
The Giants are dreadful, but I mean, aren't we all in on Jaden Daniels as just like NFL fans? Aren't we all in on Jaden Daniels right now? I mean,
he's fun. Yeah,
fun, bro.
That's the best thing in the world is when you have a rookie quarterback, you don't have to pay him, and he's just lighting it up. It's like the best feeling in the world as a football fan.
And I kind of like watching the Cowboys implode as well. We don't really have a rivalry with the Cowboys, and in my life, Tobin, I never got to see the Cowboys be good. So I don't have that like dynamic that I know some older fans might have, but there is just something fun as I'm suffering as a Dolphins fan for the Cowboys fans to suffer as well.
It's very similar.
Yeah.
It's very similar if you watch this World Series and you got to watch the Yankees blow it. It's kind of like that. It's awesome.
But the Dolphins and the Cowboys are kind of in like this same spot, right? Like storied franchises. They both committed to quarterbacks where they're so polarizing and they haven't really won anything. I know Prescott has won a playoff game before, but like, I don't know, Cowboys, Dolphins kind of in similar situations, franchises kind of in limbo right now. Obviously, the Cowboys don't have their quarterback, suffering through concussion issues, so a little different. but both teams like haven't won anything of significance in a really long time.
You got Ravens hosting the Broncos. 9-point spread. Everybody thinks Baltimore is going to bounce back against the Broncos. So the Broncos are 5-3.
At home.
Their defense is pretty good. It is at home for Baltimore.
Are they the biggest surprise team other than the Commanders? The Broncos?
The Broncos? I mean, after the Dolphins put a 70-piece on them last year, they were kind of respectable after that.
Yeah. And then they benched Russell Wilson. They were too respectable
right.
after that. But I'm just saying, like, they're 5-3. Bro, I haven't watched too much Broncos games, but I did watch week 1 when they played the Seahawks. I saw Bo Nix, and I'm like, oh, my God, this team might not win a game all season. Like, he was that bad.
Yep.
For them to be 5-3 right now with him, and obviously he's gotten a little bit better, like, say what you want about Sean Payton, but that's effing impressive to me.
Yeah, it is impressive. Their defense has been impressive at times too, so it'll be interesting to see what they got going. Vance Joseph running that defense is weird because he was the head coach there at one point. So he's like, oh, I'll be the defensive coordinator. And then in the 4:00 slate, best game today has got to be Lions and Packers. You got that at 4:25. I think that's the Brady game.
Yeah.
And then Bears Cardinals, kind of sneaky fun. You got 2 quarterbacks that'll do a lot of crazy stuff. So you're looking at the week 9 slate.
Bengals Raiders, not that game's interesting, but the Bengals right now, I think they're 3-6. They're 3-5, right?
3-5.
All right. They play short week, Thursday Night Football next week. They're at the Ravens.
Ooh.
So on Thursday. So they lose this game, right? I mean, Raiders aren't any good. We know that. But let's just say they lose this game. They've lost plenty of games they should have won. They're 3-6. Then they have to play the Ravens. I think it's at the point where in week 10, you can't just say, oh, they'll figure it out at some point, how we've done the last 3 years with them. Like at some point, there's no more figuring it out. Like you're bad. You're 3-6, you're 3-7.
Right. We'll take a break here on Game Day Uncensored. We'll predict our game balls, give you some final thoughts going into Dolphins and Bills. Back with more after this.
Football coverage
All right. Welcome back, everybody. It is Game Day Uncensored here, 560 WQAM. Take you guys up until this 1 o'clock kick from Buffalo. Dolphins and Bills getting set to get after it right now as we stand in the AFC East. The Jets won this week, so they are 3-6 in second place. The Dolphins are at 2-5. The Bills 6-2, and of course would sweep the season series if they are able to get a win later on today against Buffalo. They've had the Dolphins number 3 straight over the Miami Dolphins, and it's been a rough one. But if the Dolphins, look, I agree, Solana, with all of your premise beforehand. If the Dolphins can get this one, it does put a new light on the season. I don't know, other than just faith, why it should happen today. But if they do it, if they can finally show the Dolphin who has been hanging on and has been given this team all of their energy, sitting on their couch, eating chips, watching this team week in and week out, and they can get one today. If it feels like they could get over the hurdle that is Buffalo, then it doesn't feel like anything is impossible, because this has been the immovable object for them.
I'm just saying Browns fans had to have been approaching last week's game, right, saying the exact same thing, right, Tobin? Like, our starting quarterback was trash, and now we have Jameis Winston coming in, and, like, our team just isn't any good. How are we going to beat the Baltimore Ravens? Like, how is that going to happen? I mean, the season's done. Rebuild. And out of nowhere, like, they won a game against a team that they had no business beating. So it happens in the NFL. I'm not telling you. I want this to be as clear as possible. I'm not telling you I have faith in the Dolphins to win this football game. Like, I don't. I didn't have faith in the Dolphins winning week 2. Like, I needed to see it before I said, hey, this team has taken the next step. And guess what? They proved me right. They hadn't taken the next step. So I'm not telling you to believe that they're going to win today. Like, that's not what I'm doing. I'm just telling you that crazier bleep has happened in the NFL than the Dolphins, who have Tua Tagovailoa, Tyreek Hill, and Jalen Waddle going out, putting up points, and looking like they can beat a really good team in the NFL. Like, crazier stuff has happened. And if that happens today, then guess what? They can probably beat some of the other teams at the end of the season on their schedule as well. It doesn't mean that they're going to. It doesn't mean they're going to run the table, but they probably can. I think the questions that we've discussed today, Tobin, should they win today's game, what's going to happen? Like, does that mean that there's optimism around this core moving forward? Is that the best scenario for this franchise? I don't think so. So, like, I think there's a lot of factors at play here, but can they win today? Yeah, I mean, they can. It's possible.
And I think the thing that would help with today is, and Omar mentioned this a little bit, is that, with this rivalry in particular, it's silly to even call it a rivalry. With this matchup in particular, it's been such a mental block for Miami over these years. It's just it strangely is going to feel like more than one win. I know it doesn't, because the record is going to be what it is. But similarly to early in the season, where I said that week 2 was a statement, and that is, kind of panned out to be true about where the season was going to go. If they're able to get this, it's not just going to feel like, hey, you beat a team that you haven't been able to beat. It's going to feel like, all right, you also beat one of the better teams in the NFL. Now let's go see if you can get a run together. It'll feel possible. If they don't, I don't really know what hope is left. So yeah, it does feel like everything is coming to a head to be on the line here. I think the offense has to have its best performance of the season, Solana. Like, there's no reason for it. This is a matchup you're familiar with. You know what they're going to do. They're going to go too high. They're going to try and take away your deep plays. Take advantage of the run game. Run it down their throats. Go with the hot hand. Don't get too damn cute. I mean, Mike McDaniel always feels like in these matchups, and Sean McDermott knows it. Like, I think that's probably the reason that he's had so much success, is that he knows old what did Rex Ryan call him? You sent me this during the break.
Yeah, McGenius. He's ripping him, calling him McGenius. But it's a stupid clip, because he's ripping Mike McDaniel because he calls him, hey, he's McGenius. What about the run game? Isn't he supposed to be McGenius with the run game? And if there's like one thing you can't criticize Mike McDaniel for, has been the run game over the past couple games. So it's a dumb clip. I happen to think Timu Shanahan is a better nickname for Mike McDaniel at this point. But listen, it's Rex Ryan. Whoa,
he's
what do you
really
expect?
trying to get back. Right? He's I saw him on the pivot with Channing, and he's talking about the foot fetish thing. Like he's really hoping that in this next wave of head coaching position, like he's going to get the gig. I feel like that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to set it up and thinking like, can weave my way. It's very much like when Tannenbaum snaked his way into to the luxury box with Stephen Ross, and all of a sudden, boom, there he was, president of football operations, Mike Tannenbaum. Even though he took a flamethrower to the Jets, that he thinks that like he's gonna weasel his way in somewhere in this next coaching hire search.
You want to know how you lose me? Period. Like you want to know how you lose me? You hire Rex Ryan because
oh my God.
I think Hawk said this the other day. Like he is Mike McDaniel in the sense that it's all gimmicky, right? Like it's a different type of gimmick. It's a different type of shtick, but like Rex Ryan, rah guy. My guys are going to rally around me. And it's great for the first year when you win some games and you shock some teams. But by year 3 or 4,
Campbell-y too, yeah.
By year 3 or 4, like you're tired of it because it's not working. He has a proven track record of not winning the biggest games that he needs to win, and you're just sick of it, and then he ends up getting fired. Right now, like Mike McDaniel, it's a different type of shtick where he's player-friendly, and he's wordy, and he's smart and witty, but it was all fun, Tobin, the first year and last year when you were winning. Year 3, everybody's kind of sick of Mike McDaniel at this point. They're like, dude, just go win some damn games.
I would just like him to go with less 4-minute answers. Like it feels like his solution to this is let me just filibuster on topics for 5 minutes. That has made me quite angry at him. But other than that, like I still think he's adorable and I like his little quirky ways. But it's enough already. Like we do need to see it, and especially against this team. Like we talk so much about Josh Allen's ownership. How has he not figured out what Sean McDermott is doing? Sean McDermott's like. Feels like every game against Buffalo, they're like, oh, they're playing their 4th string safety against the Dolphins, and yet the Dolphins can do nothing against this guy. They can never figure him out and what he's trying to do to their defense. It just becomes so frustrating as a fan to watch this. And I honestly think like I don't know if this is the game to expect, but I just feel like the offense owes the defense something. Omar mentions there about Anthony Weaver. Oh, let's see if you're the guru that you are, dude. Let's be real about it with this defense, guys. If the defense can go out there and keep it to 3 touchdowns today, that's a win for this. With no pass rush, no Sealer, no Javon Holland, no Cater Kohu, no Storm Duck. You're out there with Ethan Bonner and a Cam Smith who never plays. You're out there with a Deshaun Hand. What the hell's the guy's name? Neil Farrell?
Yeah, Colin Farrell. Yeah,
Colin Farrell out there. The Penguin is out there as your nose tackle. Neil Farrell. We're like, come on, This offense owes the defense a position where it's like, hey, let's go out there. Let's get up 14-0. Let's do this. And I don't know if you have a lot of faith in it. I don't know if you should have faith in it. But I'm saying like Mike McDaniel's got all his ponies. He's got everybody at his disposal. He's got Tua. He's got Tyreek. He's got Waddle. He's got all the running backs. He's got a healthy offensive line. He's got a Jonnu Smith that seems like he's found. Who's the only guy who doesn't have? Julian Hill. Trust me, he would have ruined something anyway. Probably my wallet. So I'm just sitting here and I'm looking at both sides of the football, and I constantly feel like I'm looking at a defense that's really banged up, and too often I'm looking at an offense that looks like it's got a lot of its horses. Now that Tua is healthy, kind of owes the defense and owes Anthony Weaver to get out there and get a lead on this team. Like, I don't know, man.
No, Tobin, you're right. Like, that's why I think this game's going to be a track meet. Like, I've been telling you, I think this game is going to be a game where the Dolphins have to score 35 to 40 points. Like, they have to. It is funny, though, like, we're saying all these things, right? No mistakes. Go out there, give yourself a good lead. Maybe some special teams help, but, by the end of the second quarter, Tua's thrown an interception. Jason Sanders has dinked one off the damn uprights like he does every single game now.
Oh, my God.
The Dolphins have a fumbled snap, and they're down 27-3, going into halftime. Like, that's what happens every time you play Buffalo. That can't happen today.
Plus, I need Jonnu Smith. Like, hey, you know what he needs to do? He needs to have, like, if we could bring back the props, like if he could, maybe he has. It's probably too late for this, but maybe fly him in some Flanagan's ribs while he scores, and he's like eating the ribs. Like, this is a real appetizer right here.
Get some sports grill wings. Score
touchdown. Dude. Just really bad. Just really bad to those bastards. Like you can't trust them. They're jumping through tables. They throw sex toys on the field. They're a heinous bunch, Bills Mafia.
All you got to know about these people is that they actually think Anchor Bar wings are good. Anybody who thinks Anchor Bar wings are good has no taste buds, has no flavor, has zero culture. I mean, it's embarrassing what they think are good buffalo wings.
Well, what do you go with? Do you go naked? Do you go breaded? Like, what is your preference?
Like down here in South Florida,
anywhere, yeah, just your primo wing.
I'm not picky, but I mean, come on, man, give me some special grilled wings from Sports Grill. Like, give me special grilled. Good. I like they're fried, but then they're grilled with the spices. Like that's a damn wing right there, man. That's a chicken wing.
It can't be that great. I mean, if Buffalo was so great, they wouldn't flock down here every chance that they got to go take over the elbow room. Like it's quite obvious that, and a lot of them are there because I'm sure that their means of economics is probably like snow plowing. So like, where else are you going to live? But to me, it really speaks to how stupid they are. I bet that their trademark is jumping through a table. Ergo, I need Jonnu Smith to embarrass them today because Adam Schefter blew the alarm on what you said this summer, and listen, like I said, congrats to the boys at the dive bar for getting a lot of pub, but still, like, if you don't score touchdowns today, Jonnu Smith, that's going to come back to bite you, because then you're going to have those sniveling Buffalo reporters running to the players talking about it.
Jonnu Smith anytime touchdown tonight or today plus 275. If anybody's interested in a Jonnu Smith, statement game today in Buffalo because he kind of needs it. Yeah, might be.
He does need to. He needs to back up his words. He needs to back up his words and have himself in a position where the Miami Dolphins are rolling a little bit. But man, it would just go such a long way for this fan base. It would just go such a long way. We get a double victory weekend with the Canes yesterday. Basically, everybody but the Pinks came through this weekend.
Yeah.
So if you could just, if the Dolphins could somewhere in their hearts find us to have a Monday where we're doing nothing but celebrate, man, that would be cool. That would
especially because it's against Buffalo. Let's be real.
Course.
Against Buffalo.
Of course. Just to feel like it got one on them already. I'm so sick of that team just using the Dolphins like a chew toy, just embarrassing them left and right. It's nonstop. I can't take it anymore. Enough already. Oh, don't you guys get sick of it? Tua sitting there with your chips. Let me tell you something right now, Tua. I'm gonna be dead ass serious about this, dude. You better nary a snap. You better drop today. Hey, nary a snap. You better drop today.
Tobin, what are you concerned about, man? He's a shortstop. He's an elite shortstop. Yeah. No, he's an elite shortstop, Tobin.
I'm telling him right now, after his little fan call out, if I see you, old Butterfingers, go out there, you drop one snap, all right? I want an apology to the fan base, all right? In fact, I think Tua should donate chips to every Doll fan in the stands next time around if he drops one friggin' snap today because it's so easy. That was such a horse bleep comment by him. Dude, you owe like 3 touchdowns for saying something like that. That's crazy to me. Dolphins. That after all this nonsense, that the fan base goes and gives you a standing ovation. Your center doesn't know how to snap you a football. Apparently, you are like the most complex guy to ever snap the ball to in the history of football. I mean, we've gone eons of football. Nobody's ever had a more complex quarterback to snap to. I don't know if it's because you're lefty. I don't know if it's because you're short. I don't know what it is. Your eyes are too shifty like a chameleon. Dude, I'm telling you right now, not a snap better hit the ground today in Buffalo, because if it does, you owe us all chips.
Every season ticket holder for the Miami Dolphins will be sent a bag of Tostitos in reparations for Tua Tagovailoa dropping another snap. But don't worry about it. He's not going to apologize, Tobin. I mean, he'll just have Aaron Brewer take the heat again. Brew's got to snap a little better to me.
You got to snap it a little better, Brew. You think you throw a cute nickname on it, and all of a sudden I'm just going to forget what you did? I know. I remember what you did. I know what you did, dude. You're not gonna hocus pocus me into forgetting what you said, Tua. Just
It's all right.
ridiculous.
You know where you don't get concussions on the baseball field. Maybe he has a future as a shortstop for the Miami Marlins.
How do you first of all, you're a lefty. Can you even play shortstop? I don't think you can.
You cannot. You cannot.
I don't think has there ever been a lefty shortstop in the history of man? Like, you're stuck in right field and first base, buddy. That's it. I don't make the rules. Maybe third base. Maybe we'd put you at third base. But that's still pretty weird.
Mm-hmm.
To turn your whole body, it doesn't even physically make sense. Now, your ass is a right fielder, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Unless he's like, is that also a weird thing with Tua? Like, would he play shortstop right-handed because he does everything else right-handed?
That's right. I forgot about that. I forgot. He's a righty. He just throws lefty.
It's right. So, like, I have these shortstop. I'm getting a set aside for myself. Look, Tua, I love you. I'm lashing out. I apologize. But don't lose to this team again, dude. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it.
Yeah, don't get your hopes up, Tobin. I'm sorry, but don't get your hopes up.
Dan Day is coming up with Game Day Uncensored. You got that coming your way today, 4 p.m. And you guys will be able to watch that as well on Miami 560 WQAM. You go till 7:30 tonight, Dan. What is the final time today? Just so people they can get their post-game fix.
Yeah, 4 to 7:30 right here.
4 to 7:30 right here. 560 WQAM on the Odyssey app and as well on Miami 560 WQAM. This has been Game Day Uncensored, which is brought to you in part by your South Florida Chevy dealers. You're looking for more power, capability, and technology with Chevy trucks. You're ready for anything Chevrolet. Together, let's drive. Everybody enjoy the action today. We will talk to you guys next week, getting you ready for Monday Night Football against the Los Angeles Rams. And, we'll see where the chips lie after this one. But the Dolphins need to get this one in Buffalo. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll talk to you next time.
I'm on the Kendall Toyota text line at 30556.